welcome to SimPlay Motorsport here for the Pro-Am event this week. It is at Zandvoort, as we are still here from the GT4s last night, where it was some fantastic action from all the drivers out there on the circuit. And it's going to be an absolutely cracking night tonight. Bit of a shorter grid, only expecting 18 drivers to get into the lobby. And that's going to be an interesting one to see. But I suppose it's probably going to be a better night for them 18 drivers on this tight, twisty circuit here at Zandvoort. We see Kieran Argett's already off. I'm your host, Mathew Duffin, joined in the box by Dan Davis. Dan, good evening. You brought us the action last night at Zandvoort. What can we expect from the GT4s into the GT3s this time?
Good evening, Mathew. Good evening, everyone else, and welcome to Zandvoort for the second time this week. And obviously, I hyped up saying there's going to be a much bigger grid this evening, but clearly not in this case. But it's all about track position here, Matt, really. It's all about strategy. I think, really, even the GT4s were struggling to overtake and pass one another. And I think tonight that is literally going to be the key. Who's able to get track position, get pole position, and hold the rest of them up. And obviously, no threat of rain at all this week, so it is really who's got what they have tonight. And two drivers repping a very special livery, as it's their home race this evening. Yeah,
it is their home race. Tim Venting and Max Mulder both in a different livery to normal, as they are at their home race. Another driver who's on a different livery tonight is John Goodey. That is for his 100th appearance out there at the moment. But we've kind of gone from two different circuits, haven't we, down Watkins Glen, which kind of chucks up a bit of all sorts with the weather around, to this beautiful week here at Zandvoort, where it looks fantastic. It's going to be an absolute belter of a race week. But a tight, twistier circuit. We kind of go back to a Hungaroring, where you've got the straight line to really do some overtaking into turn one. After that, it's about picking your options and setting drivers up.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd even still think that the Hungaroring, you have more opportunities to overtake. Here, it's very difficult. There's probably only maybe two very strong chances of overtake around here. And then again, you do have to have quite a significant advantage around here to get that overtake done. But all is tonight is about who makes the least amount of mistakes, really. And like I said, it's all about track position. If you're out in front, then even a Retio can win this race. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it can indeed, which the Retio won back in Dan's hand a few seasons ago. And that was pretty much what last night was in the Giannetta's hands. Hold station and let the others make the mistakes around you. But it's Pro-Am, it's Lamborghini. Like we said, 18 drivers we are set to have on the grid. One driver who currently has the ban, or a ban this week, is Dean Wasocki, race one, and a qualifying ban. So he will not be able to get into the lobby. Or he can get in the lobby, actually, and do some practice. But he cannot race in the first race or take part in that qualifying session. As well as we are missing one more driver, but I can't quite remember who that one is. Just looking at my grid order. At the moment, do we have Romeo out there? We do not. So
no.
It is Romeo who is the other driver that is currently missing off the grid. And that would be the pole sitter as well, which if he's not able to get in by the time the 6 minutes are up, will give Sutty Apex pole position. Now, Graham pole position, should I say. Now, going to the championship, top 10 can win it from this position. Highly unlikely, but it's going to be interesting to see what will happen. Max Mulder leads the way, 89 points clear of his teammate Tim Venting. Then it is John Goodey, 132.5 points behind. Diz is P4 from Richie Michelle. Justin Winter is in P6. Now, unsure yet on how many go up, go down. Obviously, it depends on sign-ups for next year, but this could be an interesting turn of the season, Dan, where that top six, they're all really from third down are pretty close. The top two kind of started to run away with it. Any of them could really be in that shout for promotion for next season.
Yeah, definitely so. And if anything, you do, when you've cleared Pro-Am, you do want to get into that Pro category and really kind of see how you compare to the guys. I mean, Ian Gray, for example, moved up into the Pro category, and you can see he's just starting to just struggle towards the back end of the season, as did believe it was Nikita, was it, also went up as well?
Yes.
Struggled a bit as well, and I believe we also had Flem Speed 1 going up, and Nova, all those guys really struggling in the Pro, and that's the thing as well. These guys are enjoying this time in Pro-Am and enjoying race wins, but as soon as they get into the Pro category, it's a whole different ball game, and they do have to step up. Even the boys in the Pros, myself and Clouden, had to step up, Overtaker as well, because with the likes of Richard Beasley coming in, and normally Sully's there giving us a hard time, and also now Michael Eckel is now in there as well. These drivers aren't you know, just your Sunday drivers, they will make you work till your fingers are bleeding out of your steering wheel after the race. So it's a big jump into the pro, and nonetheless, even if you get a podium in the pro, it is a massive ambition.
It is, and it's going to be an interesting one to see who goes up and how well they will do. Good evening to Gary Clarble in the chat, PM Motorsport, and Paul Williams as well. The rest of that championship standings looks a little like this. It's Brian Craig P7, S10 Burbex P8, Sam P9, R Smith P10 with Dennis Hansen P11, Paul Williams 12th, Kieran Argent 13th, Mark Tucker 14th, Diego Flores from Bell, Senna Fat Bloke, DJ Phil, Naval RF Gomez, Cranky Duckhead, Dean Michael, M. Ritchie, John Andrews, Graham Romeo, Lund, the Jackal, Dean Wasaki, Nuke Waste, Andrew Taylor, and MB Pitts. So it's going to be an interesting night to see. Car choice at the moment, the Ferrari looks the fastest car out there, but we know it's the BMW that would get the biggest bop. So interesting to see that Robert Smith, 4/10 off the pole. That's pretty close in it between the top four, 4/10 off that fastest time. And yet the only car yet to set a time is out of Kieran Argent, who, well, let's touch on last week. Let's not sugarcoat it. He had a shocker.
He did indeed, but I do think a lot of it is due to car choice. And obviously not been racing for a while, not been on obviously joined the PS5 league, known for really being in the PS4 and the back end of Project Cars. So yeah, I think well, he's already put a lap time and puts him up into 13th already. Graham's slowest of them all in the BMW. Yeah, I think the problem is the Mustang's a good car on big open circuits, but circuits like this is going to struggle a lot, I think, here. But nonetheless, it's a car that's been untested, unused, and we've properly seen it this season. And I think to some drivers, it's too much of a handful.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. The BSP boys lead the way in that Constructors' Championship and can all but wrap it up here tonight. The Greasy Bandits racing a P2 with Richie Corsa in third. Team Melo a P4 from Stage 2 Motorsport. Team FBR, the first team that can't win it from FSO Junior Racing Team. Then it is Retroactive Racing. Forever Forward lead the independent teams from Vorta Racing, Cool Shot Racing and Greasy Bandits Racing Junior as well. So interesting to see the teams' championships look pretty... more one-sided, I'd say, than the actual Drivers' Championship. And BSP, the two boys, the two Dutch lads of Tim Ventink and Max Mulder, have really done a good job this season. They've scored where they've needed to. They've took the points where other drivers around them have not been so lucky or fortunate.
They've just capitalised where they can, and I think the problem is as well, they're getting to the point where now they're at that pro stage now. They know that they are knocking on the door of the pro. I mean, look at Richie Michel's time. We were talking about, earlier on, we were talking about the pro driver's pace, and I believe we were talking about a particular McLaren doing a 35.5. Richie Michel was not a million miles away from being in the 35s himself. So, you know, it's getting to that point now where, you know, Tim Ventink and Max still have to look over their shoulder. There are still drivers there that can give him a headache, but it's pretty much down to these two. But obviously, Diz very busy with work at the minute with a lot of what's going on. And, yeah, just other drivers not able to really complete the season. And I think when the boys do go up into the pro, more likely Tim and Max will end up in pro. It's going to be a struggle, but they'll be reunited with Sky. I know that for sure.
And do you think that's part of the struggle, Dan, going into that pro category of having them drivers, especially the ones at the front of the pack, there more week in, week out? Because we have actually lost a driver. We are down to 16. Not sure who it is that we have lost. But do you think that's the harder challenge of Pro Prime? Obviously, Diz, who was in between Max and Tim, has obviously missed a couple of rounds now. That's hurt him. Even with the drop scores, you missed 2 races, really. That's going to hurt your season. And others, you know, just not having that same consistency. Obviously, when they go to the pro, they've got the sort of likes of yourself, Jamal, you know, Overtaker, Harris, Richard Beasley, Eccles up there, you know, and we've seen at times as well in that pro series, Mike Matthews is capable, Insert Coin's been capable, Gary's capable, Sky Shundlemeyer's been quick on his day, Ben as well, he's another driver that's pretty quick. With that BOP coming in possibly for next season, that this is where these drivers are going to sit here and be like, this is going to be a tough one.
This is going to be a tough one indeed, and it's just in Pro-Am it's all about raw speed. Whoever's the fastest is more likely going to win the race, and in Pro that's not necessarily true anymore. Although you may be the fastest and you take pole position or whatever, you know, it will still never be enough. You have to play that numbers game And at times you do have to think a little bit like Prost and just, be the professor and just calculate each race as you go by. And like yourself, Matt, in the GT4, it's only got your first race win this season and still leading the championship. So it's all well and good being fastest on the day. I mean, look at me at Watkins Glen, near enough on pole position and had a torrid night. Didn't really do anything with Watkins, ended up being my drop score. But due to the fact that I've had a pretty decent, consistent season, that's really the only time it's hurt me. So you do have to play the numbers game sometimes. You do have to play it smart. And I think when you're in that pro category, it's not about raw speed. It's all about consistency and being there to score points. And that's where the boys in this category, if they're dominating racings, that's when they're going to learn, right, this is consistent. And they've got to be able to work through the pack, because you're going to be in that pack a lot more in the pro.
It's like you said earlier in the programme, Dan, that you look at Nova, you look at Flem Speed 1, you look at Ian Gray, you look at Nikita. All came up to the pro. They've all showed glimpses of what they can do, but at times haven't been as solid as they maybe was in Pro-Am. Look how dominant that Nova was last season in a lot of races. Compare that to this year, where he'd been sort of mid-pack back of the grid. Obviously, we've not seen him a lot because he's had a baby girl, but that's just showing you the consistency that you kind of need. And like you say, you could go and dominate a Pro-Am race, but that's not always going to be the case in Pro. Mike Matthews, probably one of the best examples. Barely wins a race, barely gets a podium in Pro. That's no disrespect to his driving.
30 seconds.
But because he has that consistency over a season to be pointsy and to score the points and take the points where he needs to, keeps himself in Pro every season.
Yeah, definitely so. And just looking now back at some of the results in the Pro, just to kind of give you an idea of the caliber of drivers. There's only been a handful of drivers that actually take race wins. Kyle, one of them, in a reverse grid at Indianapolis. Michael Eckel is the only one really been quite consistent with his races. He's had the most race wins, I believe, so far this season. Wesley's had a couple. Who else I'm looking here? Fuchsius has had one. Will Freeman has had one. Obviously, again, all these help from reverse grids, but raw race pace. Nikita, earlier out in the season, had one and has not had one since. Clouden has only had one this season.
Yeah,
so
there's that consistency
talk,
isn't it?
And I've only had three. Four. So, but most of these guys are able to keep on the podium pretty much every week.
And that's where we talk about that consistency, Dan, isn't it? In Pro, 3 seconds and a third, 2/3 for Clouden with one race win. That matches your 3/3 and 3 seconds.
I mean,
and 2/3.
Overtaker's not even had a single win this season.
Yeah, exactly. And he as well. Only he's had 7 podiums to his name. You look at somebody like Gary, who, he's not on the podium as much anymore, but only 2 podiums to his name. Mike Matthews, who was your championship rival last year, 1 podium, and I think that was given through time penalties. So it's a difficult one to get right. It's a difficult one for these drivers to sort of, be able to nail. But Pro's going to be interesting next season for sure. That's going to be a category that's going to be worth keeping your eyes on as well throughout the season, with Pro-Am and any other events that we bring your way on the calendar, though. But we are getting ready for the first race of the evening. It will be round 19. And Dan, who's your tip for this race win? Graham starting on pole. We know he's capable of doing the business. Can he, though, tonight?
I'm optimistic about it. I don't think he hasn't had enough time to really dial in the Beamer. He didn't seem particularly happy when I briefly spoke to him just now. My money's on... I'm going to go Robert Smith on this one.
Robert Smith starting down the order in P9. Dean Wisoki's got in the lobby, but we will ignore Dean at the time being. He will not be able to take to this race due to having that race 1 and qualifying ban tonight, so he'll have to wait in the pits and pace a week. But what he's got is he's got time to watch other drivers and see maybe where they're stronger or weaker as the night goes on. That is all he's got going for him in this race tonight. They're coming towards the end of their formation lap, long old formation lap here. It feels, with all the twists and turns and up and down sections of this circuit. But as we get ready for John Gooday's 100th race, I do believe it is in this first one. It is. It's his 100th race in this first one. We, though, are ready for race 19 of the season. 3 weeks left And then as we head in, we stay in Europe. We go to Zolder next in Belgium, which is not far from here, just north of the border, I do believe. And then we head to Valencia in Spain to round off the season and capitalise and end what has been a fantastic year of Pro and Pro-Am racing. Now, what is this? Why
I have no idea what's going on.
Halfway down the stop? Is he going to get a stop-go penalty for being out of position at the start? No, nobody's got a stop-go penalty. But look at how slow Graham is off the start. It's not gone well. Diego Flores comes across him, chops the nose off. Graham's now going to try and work back. He's got two Mustangs on his outside, one of Gomez and one of Kieran Argent. Argy Bargy and Sooty Apex going wheel to wheel already, coming through turn 2. And they're the two that makes contact. Now that's a McLaren into player, man. And Graham's in the wall. And all of a sudden, Gomez is the one who's sitting pretty. It was Graham and Argent that made the contact. I'm not sure who the McLaren is. It's Mark Tucker. Comes away with a bit of a scuff, but through the carnage he gets. That's Burra Bex, who normally gets caught up in them melees, but he's come through unscathed as well. And Dan, it is chaos already at the start of this race.
Yeah, absolute chaos, and just as they were having their moment, other cars were dropping it as they were rejoining after turn 1. So Tim Venting's been caught up in that. Max managed to negotiate his way through the chaos and has managed to come out pretty much unscathed. Just probably a bit of a, he might need to change his pants afterwards, but other than that, pretty unscathed for him, but absolute chaos. And Assetto and Burbeck's possibly on a great chance to win a race here, possibly. But nonetheless, the driver I thought was going to be favourite to win has got major damage as
so
Robert Smith has got damage on the front end of his car.
He has indeed. Burbeck just looks like he's got a few scuffs on the splitter as they come down towards the chicane for the first time. Brian Craig trying to get on that of Diego Flores. Here's Richie Michel with a lot of front end damage before John Goodey and then Max Mulder. That sounded like there was a car just across the gravel. That looks to have been Diego Flores as Brian Craig's going to look up the inside, coming into the final corner, and through he goes. Great job from Brian Craig. P5 already. Good evening to Ian Gray, Fury's granddad, Michael Eckhout, and Yoshi, our endurance commentator from back at Imola. Now this is going to be interesting, Dan, as you're seeing cars go wide at that final corner. Very tricky final corner. John Goodey's having a look up the inside of the damaged Richie Michel. Michel, though, sends one up the inside of Diego Flores. That was a late move, but he didn't chop the nose of John Goodey, and he managed to get the move done. Now John is ahead of Diego Flores, as is Max Mulder. They all come flying through at the minute. Tim Ventink on the back of Robert Smith, but it is carnage as John's had a moment coming up towards a hairpin. Max has got past him.
Yeah, he just had a squirty moment going in, but he's managed to collect it and not gone off and not hit the wall, more importantly. So Max is on the move, but he's on the back of a very fast Ferrari of Richie Michel, who's got big damage on the rear end of that Ferrari. A lot of damage in general all around it.
Oh! Sorry, Dan, there is huge damage on Hansen, but he has timed that to perfection into the pits, as is Graham, as will Argy Bargy. P. Williams in there just a little too early. He's going to have to go again. And Tim Ventick now going around the outside of Robert Smith. It's going to be hard to get it done around this second outside section of the track. Did he just tap the back of him? John's Aston Martin is looking rather loose out there, and he just looks like he's struggling a bit. And did he get tapped from Robert Smith? Round and off he goes. That's going to allow Tim Ventink up the inside. Diego Flores and Justin Winter and DJ Phil, DJ Phil didn't get past, but already chaos at the start of this race. Gomez able to use that Mustang straight line speed, Dan, and pull away from the two McLarens who are starting to have a bit of a fight behind.
But he's not really pulling. I think Tucker and Assetto and Burbeck, if anything, are crawling him back in again. 1.3 was the gap at the middle sector. As they come out of the final corner, I think, as they would go Gomez straight into the pits, I think they were starting to catch him pretty rapidly, and I think Assetto and Burbeck needs to make this move now as he goes fastest, as Brian Craig now goes fastest, but Richie Michel also going quicker as well. But I think Assetto and Burbeck needs to make this move now if he's got a chance of winning this race.
He does indeed, and he's all over the back of Mark Tucker. Richie Michel, like I say, fastest lap. He's got Max Mulder on the back of him from Tim Ventink a little further back. Justin Winter trying to come through as actually Gomez pits from John Goodey and DJ Phil all into the pit lane then. And yeah, this is an interesting stage of this race, but it's Burra Bex and Mark Tucker who are currently the two out there flying along so far. Good evening to everybody in the chat. Let's hear who you think is going to win this race, but this is the battle for the race lead. Max Mulder still on the back of Richie Michel, who in himself is trying to get on the back of Brian Craig. This for Team Miller is turning out to be a great race. Max looking a little bit pacey between
Tucker and S2M Borobex, and that's brought them much closer together. And S2M Borobex has now got pressure from Brian Craig, which Richie Michelle is now trying to look up the inside of Brian
Tucker's
Craig.
off!
Tucker's had a moment.
Yeah, Tucker's had a moment all on his own. He's off, and he's not going to lose one. He's going to lose all 4 places in the first stage of this race. So now then, Brian Craig, you've got to help your teammate. Maybe get him on the back. John Goody's got to stop-go penalty speeding in the pit lane. So he's already in a bit of kerfuffle in this race. That's not going to help him. Graham's the first one of the badly damaged cars to be away. Oh, well, Paul Williams was, but he's got to go and pit again. Max Mulder now dives up the inside of Brian Craig. He's into second. So already changes for positions and jostling around here at the back end of this race. It has been a chaotic start, but all 3 orange McLarens and an orange Ferrari run inside that top 6. You get a feeling there's a very Dutch vibe around this track.
Very much so, but Tim Venting sets fastest lap of this race. Max, meanwhile, has cleared pretty much all of the traffic. Gomez really the only one that's outside of this pit sequence, so we see where he will drop out later. But S2M Borobex has the race lead. I think this is the first time he's led a race, and we'll see if he can hold Max Mulder up.
Well, Tim Venting now fastest lap of the race, and he is also on the back of this train of Richie Michelle and others. So let's see what's going to happen. Down through to the middle sector, there you go. Dean, oh, sorry, ignore me. Dean was talking, I was got racing this one. I was about to say he's into the pits. Paul Williams back in now for his mandatory pit stop. John Gooday, where's he on circuit? Coming to the back end of the circuit. And Graham is, and Graham is a lap down. So he'll be able to unlap himself from John Gooday. So that's going to be an interesting one. But this is currently the fight. Brian Craig, Richie Michelle. Is Richie going to have a look up the inside? That's going to be a tight line through there. Brian Craig gives him plenty of room. Tim Ventic might think of sticking this 3 wide, but Richie Michelle goes through. Tim Ventic might think of going through as well. Tucker's under pressure from Smith in the background, and Tim gets around the outside. Does Brian Craig come back on the inside? No, he does not. What about Tucker and Smith? Smith can't get through, but a lovely move from Richie Michelle and from Tim Venting. Max now starting to put the pressure already on S2M Borobex. Down the order. That battle of Robert Smith and Tucker developing nicely. They've got Justin Winter there for company as John Gooday and Paul Williams still in the pit lane, and that will allow Graham to unlap himself from them two and put himself onto that same lap as John Gooday, as that is Robert Smith very wide and in the wall. Huge hit in the wall. Luckily it's on pit entry, and that's the problem with the final corner. You have to be careful at how far you push it, because Dan, the minute you go wide and put a wheel on that grass, that is you round.
Yeah, definitely so, and there's a mistake coming from him, and he'll drop down the order. S2M Borobex, meanwhile, was under some pressure from Max Mulder. He did do fastest lap, Max just told it straight away. So these two have got decent pace at the minute, and pulling away from Richie Michelle, who's got his own fight with Tim. But while this is all going off, this is helping Gomez just keep a smooth rhythm and try and make sure that he can stay out in front of these guys when they eventually pit. But they've got to start allowing these two to race hard for that to really kick in.
They have got to start to let these two race hard for that to kick in. Indeed, excuse me. Peaceful explosion, one way to enter the pit lane, he says here, and Harris. Good job he went off when he did. He could come straight in. Gary Clarble, the winner, will be the only thing left moving. That's the recovery truck, he says, at the end of this race. It has been catastrophic. He's got a great run, though. He's going to try and squeeze up that inside line. And the bonus around here is Borobex just puts it in the middle of the road. He's allowed to come back into the braking zone. That is his manoeuvres done. And Max now trying to go that longer way around. And you're just not going to be able to do so on that corner. Now this is a tricky section for Max, and a dangerous section if he gets it horribly, horribly wrong.
For S2M Borobex now, whatever Max does, he has to respond instantly. He cannot allow him to get free air at all. So whenever Max reacts, he's got to go with him. If he pits, he has to go the next lap, as Tim Venting is now opting to change the strategy. So this is another thing that S2M Borobex has got to keep an eye on. He's got 2 cars going pretty much against him, and we'll see. And he's got to make sure he doesn't repair the damage, because if he repairs that damage, that's his race win gone.
It will be the race win gone, as Robert Smith is now coming out of the pit lane. John Gooday's not quite close enough. Paul Williams managed to stay ahead of Graham. So that's how big a damage Kieran Argent had. And Dennis Hansen at the minute, 7.8 off the back. But it is that gap for the race lead, like we say, that is coming down. It's now up to a 10.5. And Max Mulder giving it his all. But this is just proving, Dan, that a bit like Hungary, what we said about Argent with Max Mulder, defend for your life, and then on that straight, make sure you use as much advantage as you can. And it's going to be very difficult to come through. You're not really breaking in straight lines here, apart from turn 1.
Yeah, pretty much, and obviously probably the penultimate corner as well. But you're relying on your car being able. Esteban Borobex has got to win this race in the slowest way possible.
Yeah.
He's got to just hold Max up. He doesn't need to, he doesn't need to panic. He's got a race lead. Max has to find a way through without making contact. And if he does make the contact and gets past, then obviously a ticket will be raised and he'll be then obviously off to the steward's room. So Max has got to be careful, but at the same time, Esteban Borobex has got to be smart about this. He can't allow Max to get too much of a gap. And Tim Venting now has split the strategy. He's not repaired his car. He's now got clean air and he's cleared Gomez. Yeah. So now Esteban Borobex
Max is in.
Max is in. So Max now is in. Esteban Borobex needs to pit this lap. If he leaves it any longer, he is going to lose out not just to Max, but he'll lose out to Tim as well.
And where's Tim? Tim's coming through the right and left section. He's cleared Gomez by quite the gap. Tell you who could be on for a good result here is DJ Phil, who sat in P10, as Brian Craig puts it in the box as well. So Max into the pits, Tucker's through, Winter's through, Diego Flores is through. He's just put a lap on Kieran Argent. Robert Smith has also got past, but he is a lap down. He's now put himself back onto that lead lap of Max Mulder, to say the least. Argent seems a lot quicker than Diego Flores at the moment, but obviously needs to pass him in the cleanest manner as he's trying to head down after Paul Williams. Justin Winters now within 3/10 of Mark Tucker. Could be a good result for Team Merlot tonight. They're having a good run at the moment. Max Mulder goes green. Right, so where's Tim Venting? Coming down the start line now. Max Mulder's already out the pit lane. Now you can cross that dotted line. That is acceptable. And Max comes out, and look at that little track map. If we just make it bigger on your screen momentarily, look at the red dot. That is Max Mulder. The next car in front of him is John Gooday, but there is still a good gap ahead so that Max can use that to just have some clean air for the time being. And when he gets onto the back of John, John's got no choice but to move.
Yes, indeed. And Esteban Borobex now has to do a Hamilton lap. He needs to have an in-lap of his life as he comes into the final few corners now. And we'll see what this lap is going to be. Is he coming in? He has to react to Max, and he is, which is a good option. Now he's just got to get it slowed down, stopped, and nail his points. As Richie Michelle also comes in, he has to also make sure that the repair is turned off, because he has any form of repair whatsoever, he is in trouble.
Diego Flores, the only man staying out on circuit then. Robert Smith has got past Kieran Argent. I say got past, that's put a lap on Kieran Argent, apologies. He's now going to try and unlap himself from Diego Flores, and the bonus for Robert Smith is if he unlaps himself from Diego Flores, that'll put him back onto the lead lap of Diego. With Diego still having to pit, he will hopefully pass him as soon as possible and get around to be able to be closer to Diego Flores at the end of this lap. Where is Max Mulder, though? That is what everybody's asking. He's coming up the final corner. Borobex is not yet away. I think Max has done him. I think Tim Venting's also going to do him here. What about Naval Gomez? He's only 3.3 behind. Goes a little wide. That's not going to happen. In the wall goes Gomez. Bonnet pops open. Damage done. And Borobex has been jumped by Richie Michelle.
He's repaired the damage. That's what he's done. He's repaired the car.
So he comes out P4 because he stays ahead of Brian Craig.
Track position was key, and he gave it away by repairing the car. Probably forgot, I'm not sure, but either way, Max Mulder now leads his home race. 1-2 BSP at their home race, and yeah, I think that was a silly mistake there from Esteban Borobex. With only 7 minutes to go, he could have held that damage and still be in the lead of this race.
Naval Gomez, major damage. Just watching him, he's off again, and round he goes. And here comes Justin Winter as Gomez pulls it off onto the gravel. He has got huge damage, struggling to turn the Mustang, and that's another 2 places he loses. Mark Tucker's going to come through. DJ Phil, I said he might capitalise. Well, he didn't after everybody had pitted, so he might then get up to P9 here. Still not a bad result for DJ Phil. John Gooday across the chicane. His Aston Martin looked horrendous tonight. I know you can already hear him just going a little bit slow and patient as he pulls out of the way and lets Max have the inside line coming into the corner.
Gomez's car, I can actually see the engine.
Yeah.
I can see the engine. That's
which
how
is a
bad the
rarity
is.
on this game. That is how
Very
much
rare.
damage he's got. PN saying that Mustang doing Mustang things. It did look very similar to Kieran Argent's last week at Watkins Glen. That, though, is going to be huge. That's at least going to be over a minute, I'd say, of damage, plus the in and out pit stop time. that could allow... Where's Robert Smith? Bottom end of the circuit. John Gooday's top end of the circuit just started lap. I reckon everybody could get ahead of Gomez here and could pretty much knock him down the order. Even Graham could unlap himself and get ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the order right now is completely separate, vast at the minute, because there's a lot of cars out of position. There's cars that are lap down or 2 laps down, and it's a bit confusing at this stage. But there's only one close fight at this minute, and it's Justin Winter and Brian Craig. Brian Craig's hunting the Porsche down bit by bit, and I think Justin Winter's going to be under some pressure in a minute. I
think he is, and Porsche looks like it's got a bit of damage on the front bumper and front splitter of that Porsche 992 car. Then that's another 10th took out. Not sure what the Porsche do around here. You'd think it might be decent enough with it being quite a lot of corners and not about the top speed until the start straight, but interesting to see.
More traction. It's more about the traction zones where the Porsche is strong. So obviously turn 1 he'd probably be strong, and the tight twisty sections, but the fast flowing corners, I think the Porsche does still struggle a little bit, but the McLaren still looking quite solid, and Brian Craig is right there, right on the wing of the Porsche.
Yeah, he wants this 6th place badly at the moment. Keep your eye on Burrobex. That gap's down to 1.2 between himself and Richie Michel. Richie Michel as well came into this having great pace in the week. It's been absolutely fantastic in testing. He's wanting that P3 in the championship as well. What is he behind John Gooday at the moment is around 38 points, 37.5 points behind John Gooday. Well, he's going to take a good chunk out of John tonight. John will get that 11th place, though, because Gomez in the pitch. Justin Winter on the grass coming out the final corner, and that shows how lethal it can be. We've seen Robert Smith spin off to the right. We've seen Gomez get flicked to the left. Justin Winter being able to keep it on the circuit as Brian Craig has a little look, but not able to get through at the moment. And a huge twitch on the exit for Justin Winter there. That'll make Brian Craig just have a rare smile, I'd say. Diego Flores in the pits, and Burrobex is within a second of Richie Michel now, so he's on the move.
Yeah, and Assetto Burrobex, even though he's repaired that damage, he's now onto the back of Richie Michel, and he's just pulled away again. But nonetheless, your two BSP boys have really planned this strategy quite well, outsmarted the guys in front, and I think if S2 and Burrobex didn't repair that damage, I think we'd be having a very different conversation in this race.
Just had a change down the order. Dennis Hansen's just got up the inside of Kieran Argent. Kieran got the chicane horribly wrong. So Dennis Hansen moves up to 15th place ahead of Kieran Argent. Naval Gomez still in the pit lane. Where's Graham? He's just started now the same. Oh no, he's just passed Naval Gomez, who comes out the pits. Paul Williams then has also got past. Dennis Hansen and Kieran Argent did not. They're having a cracking little scrap here at the moment. Or did they just get past? Believe they have, yes. So they have both got past. So it's the Mustangs, currently the 2 lowest cars. That has no positive or negative effect around here in terms of the BOP performance. It would have gained and lost nothing. Yeah, well, the professionals who are driving that one can explain that. Pit windows closed. Obviously, ignore Dean Wasocki. He is not featured in this race due to a penalty to his name. He will not be able to feature in the qualifying session either. And Burrobex within 8/10 now of Richie Michel, and Brian Craig still looking on the back of Justin Winter. Does he think of pulling out? He does. Justin just dropping a wheel onto the grass there. So interesting to see. But Richie Michel now on the dirt. Not on the defensive quite yet, but just on that more cautious line as they come through.
Yeah, definitely so. And your top two, though, still pulling away. Tim Benting, actually, if anything, is improving his pace. He's a little bit quicker at this stage than Max Mulder. And Max, though, has pretty much got this race under control. But it's then who's going to finish in third. Richie Michel versus S2M Burrobex. And they're now lapping John Goudet as they go through the middle sector. And Brian Craig still looking to try and make a move on Justin Winter. But BSP taking a 1-2. That's pretty much going to seal the deal with the constructors. Maybe another strong finish in race 2, and they'll be champions here at their home circuit, possibly.
It is doable. Likely, not sure, but doable it is indeed. See the shorter 17 car grid, no Romeo in this first race, which is a shame. He's been telling us how he's had pace throughout the day as well. And Richie Michel's in the wall, Dan. Richie Michel's just got off in the wall, just looked away at the tables momentarily. Didn't see if Burrobex hit him. No, Burrobex has got no damage. So Richie Michel's lost it on his own. Brian Craig and Justin Winter a little too far back as Max Mulder starts the final lap.
He's off again.
Venting manages to take the fastest lap away. Richie Michelle off at the final corner, and that allows Winter and Brian Craig through. Where's Mark Tucker? Just a bit further back. DJ Phil's now up into P8 ahead of his teammate. Great result for DJ Phil. Argent trying to close on Hansen as well, but that is not how Richie Michelle would have wanted it. He's threw away a P3 there. Not sure what happened, but points he could really grab over that of John Gooday. He's not going to grab as many.
No, he's not, but either way, he's pretty much ruined that race, even though he was pretty much in third and done the job. But now he's just trying to survive and stay ahead of Tucker. He might just be able to keep ahead of DJ Phil, but the Dutch Army have come out for their Dutch drivers, and they've come in and absolutely dominated the sprint so far. Not been the easiest way to get through the pack, but nonetheless, they have been on top this evening so far.
Indeed, as Mats Mulder's going to come down towards the final couple of corners. What a night for him to win on home soil in that special livery, and I don't think he'll be too bothered about Tim taking the fastest lap. He'll extend his championship lead 4 more points, and let's not forget this week as well would have been the last week of drop scores for drivers, but because of the because of what happened at Kota, where we had to do the half points, Pro-Am will get next week as their drop scores as well. But Max Mulder is going to come towards the line. He's going to start now to believe that this championship is becoming his. He finishes the race. Tim comes second and takes the fastest lap. That is a brilliant job for the pair of the Borough Becks on the podium. That's his first podium since the very first race of the season. Great result for him. Justin Winter probably a bit fortunate to get P4 after Richie Michelle. There's John Gooday just slowing down in P11 as well to come across the line with his teammate. But P4 for Justin Winter. Brian Craig, great result for him in P5. Nice little stuff. Mark Tucker is going to take P6. That's a lovely, lovely result for him. Richie Michelle then is next. That is with Graham. Graham is just behind Richie Michelle. It doesn't look like DJ Phil's close enough, so it does look like it's going to be P7 for that of Richie Michelle, who gets outdragged to the line by Graham. DJ Phil will then come to the line for P8. His teammate in P9. That's not bad for the FSO juniors as they come across for a photo finish. Robert Smith will be next to the line. In fact, it'll be Paul Williams who's next to the line, and he's going to come across for 13th place. Robert Smith just behind him. He will come across for P10, and then it's the drivers down the order. Kieran Argent not able to get on the back of Dennis Hansen, unfortunately, in this race, and Naval Gomez down in 16th place. So he kind of threw away a good result as well, Dan.
The BSP boys running side by side together. Yeah, it's a shame for Gomez, what could have been for the Mustang, but showing that the Mustang wasn't the strongest round here. But nonetheless, congratulations to the BSP boys. They deserve that, and well orchestrated.
Well orchestrated indeed. We, though, will be back in a few moments' time for the qualifying session in round 20 of the season. Don't go anywhere. Gentlemen, for qualifying here at Zandvoort for round 20 of the season. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic session. And Max Mulder and Tim Venting not wasting any time. They are straight out there on track and straight ready to go as they go through this session. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's see what they can do. Dean Wysocki, reminder, qualifying ban. He will be the only one not taking part in qualifying in this session. But Dan, it was a fantastic and frantic first race. What has the championship rivals of Max Mulder got to do now in this second one to claw back points?
Well, a lot of it is just survival as well. You've seen the boys making sure they keep out of trouble and make sure they take full advantage of the clear air as they possibly can. And same again, I think they just got to work on their strategies, the rest of the drivers, to stop these two, because at the minute they're in sync and they're basically might as well just put a new thing into the Olympics, synchronized driving, because at the minute they're just going around following one another around the circuit. But now they need to find something to find a way to stop them.
Yeah, they do indeed. It's going to be an interesting one to see what these two can do, though, in the qualifying. They're going to be the first two to set a lap. It's going to be Tim over Max, as Tim's got past Max now. So Tim over Max to set a lap first of all. So it's going to be an interesting session to see what these drivers can do. Just going to double check something on the results page here. Yep, all is fine. So the championship standings then look a little like this. Not long left to go now at all. There is only 283 points up for grabs. It is a 93-point gap Max Mulder has over Tim Bentinck. 167.5. It's really turning into that two-horse race to John Gooday. He then has pulled away from Diz. Obviously, Diz not here tonight to do so. Then it's Richie Michelle, who has closed that gap, but is still some 27.5 points behind John Gooday due to that crash at the end. Justin Winter is P6. With Brian Craig P7, Esteban Burrobeck's moving up to 8th, Robert Smith is P9, Sam down to 10th now due to not being here this week. Dennis Hansen from Paul Williams, Mark Tucker 13th, Kieran Argent 14th place, he lost out to Paul Williams in that race. Diego Flores 15th with DJ Phil in 16th place, and Diego and DJ really gained over Kieran Argent as well. Naval Gomez stays 17th ahead of Darren Bell, with Senna, Fat Bloke, Cranky Duckhead, Dean, Michael, Mirko, Richie all missing this week, as does John Andrews, and then it is Graham who moves up to 27th, 3 points behind John Andrews to try and get ahead of him there. From Romeo, Bieland, the Jackal, Dean Wysocki, Nuke Waste, Andrew Taylor and MB Pitts. So going to be an interesting one to see what happens, Dan, throughout the course of this week. But it was Max Mulder who took the first blow. Who will take that second blow in qualifying? Tim's coming towards the end of his lap time. Just talk us a bit more about this last corner. We mentioned it in the first race. Why is it so difficult around here for this last corner to get right?
I think it's because a lot of racing games, especially Formula 1 circuits, make it a banked corner, so you can pretty much take it flat. So in this version, it's pretty flat anyway, so it's quite difficult. You want to take it flat as much as you possibly can, but you might have to have a little lift or a confidence boost, but you just have to nail the line. You can do it flat, but it's just nailing that perfect line, as Tim Bentinck ends up doing a 36.5. That's the benchmark, boys, and Robert Smith gets within 9/10 of that.
He does. Here comes Mark Tucker, 2.8 off the back. Richie Michelle now goes within 1.3 as Brian Craig now comes to the line. Diego Flores is with him. Diego goes up to P6. Brian moves up into P3. Burrobeck's is not the next one. It's DJ Phil from then Burrobeck's to set a lap time out there on the circuit as the drivers come down the start-finish line now. Here comes DJ Phil, moves himself nowhere. That was invalid. Burrobeck's, though, goes into P3, just proving that Burrobeck's has got a little bit of pace around here tonight as well.
Yeah, indeed. And I think, like I said, if he just played the strategy a bit better in that last race, we would have been having a very different outcome. But need to say, John Gooday now crossing the line, and that does not put a lap time on the board. Maybe Justin Winter. Nope, no lap times on the board. So a lot of these guys already giving themselves track limit warnings and, you know, validating their lap times. But either way, we'll see how the rest of them get on. I believe Tim will be then next, I believe, to set a lap time. Well, no, Graham.
12, yeah, Graham, and the 42 of Tim. Now, Tim could be invalid because I think I figured out this mystery blue dot nonsense. I think it's when you've done an out lap, you then get a fast lap, and then it'll start to validate it as Graham goes up to P12. So let's see if Tim improves. I believe Tim might be on an invalid lap here. Let's take a look, though, as he comes round the final bend down towards the start-finish line for the second lap in a row. Comes across the line and stays where he is. Robert Smith, though, finds half a second and goes a little quicker on the tracks. That's great to see. Richie Michelle, he's the man who was setting the practice times alight earlier on, just as we came live, and he stays where he is on the track at the moment. So the next car is car 18.
Car 18 of Diego Flores doesn't improve either. Then Mark Tucker, still no improvement from him either. So a few cars not able to get a lap time on the board at the stage, as S2M Burabex also seems to be on a lap, but no improvement, held up by DJ Phil possibly, so he might want to try and get himself some clean air, as Max Mulder still not set a lap time himself, as Paul Williams goes up into 4th place, and Max now sets a lap time and goes fastest overall, 36.0.
So it's after you've done your first valid lap time, that's when it'll start to go green, as Insert Coin goes up to P5, and Justin Winter moves up to 9th place to 666. So Dennis Hansen didn't get to see the best of him in this one. In the first race, obviously involved in that melee. He comes to the line, goes P6 currently at the moment. Next car is that of car 12, and that is Graham. Graham's in such a good position then, because look at all that clean air in front of him.
Yeah, and clean air behind him as well, so he's got no one really bothering in front or behind, so Graham can really focus on just nailing some laps together. He crosses the line, he does improve 1.8 off the pace, but I mean, if he finds literally 4, maybe half a tenth, he'll be up into 4th place position. That's how close it is between 4th down to 10th, so it's still close as Richie Michelle exits the final corner.
Robert Smith finds a couple of hundredths there to put himself just a little bit closer to Tim Venting. Here comes Richie Michelle. Does he improve? He does. Goes up to P3 at the moment. Kieran Argent yet to get a lap time on the board. He now moves up into 8th place before Diego Flores is going to come to the line with that of John Gooday. Diego moves up into P14. John still doesn't set a lap time. Mark Tucker to the line. He doesn't improve either. Next up is 68 to Borough Bex. He's managed to get ahead of DJ Phil, who's invalidated his lap time. What can he do here?
What can he do indeed, as DJ Phil crosses the line? No improvement from him. Paul Williams, no improvement either, so we'll see how these guys get on now. We seem to hit a lull. Some of the guys might need to refresh, as Gomez now goes into 4th, and Justin Winter goes to 6th.
So a good bit of pace there found between them two. Dennis Hansen on his own, what can he do?
Exits final corner now in McLaren. Luke McLaren on top at the minute. And we'll see if that continues on. He goes 1.1 off the pace, so they are starting to find some little improvements here or there. And I believe it's then Graham once again, 1.8 off the pace.
And Dan, you've obviously driven GT3s all season this year. Is it this stage of the qualifying session that you think, right, maybe put a fresh set of boots on? Time starting to get better, put a fresh set of boots on and go again as Graham moves up to P11?
It varies really. A lot of drivers tend to try and, you know, nurse the tyres a little bit more and try and get the best out of them at a later stage, because they still got to get to temperature and pressure. That's the problem they have. As Robert Smith was 9 tenths, he's now 6 tenths behind. As Tim Venting crosses the line, no improvement from his. Richie Michelle, no improvement either. Brian Craig does improve, go to 8th, and then Argent goes to 8th now. So lap times are improvement. Then it's Max Mulder, no improvement for him. And then John Gooday finally getting a lap time on the board. I'm struggling. I'm puzzled to why the Aston is struggling around here, because it seems to be a circuit where it'd be quite strong. As S2M Burabex now goes into 7th place with DJ Phil next to come to the line.
John said last week, I believe, on interview that he doesn't gel with this circuit, and really you have to gel with this one. It is one of them tracks that if something doesn't click, it's just not going to work for you. And I wonder if that's what John's struggling with. It's just himself around this track. Car should be good. It's Justin Winter now moves up to P6. Because obviously, Dan, it's a circuit. You're constantly out the wheel, aren't you? You're constantly busy doing things around this track. So that's going to be what John's probably struggling with at the moment. Yeah,
possibly so. I mean, like I said, the car is quite strong around here. This is obviously one of the first circuits that I drove the Aston Martin around and fell in love with the Aston around here. I thought it was actually a brilliant car around this circuit, but John's struggling at this stage, while Graham, meanwhile, exits the final corner to try the pit lane. Given a practice in pit entry, you want to nail it as he hits the wall as he does so. Fantastic. I'm glad we got that on stream. As Robert Smith now exits the final corner, it's like he pulled the handbrake then and just went bang into the wall.
Sooty doing sooty things, isn't it? As Robert Smith.
Robert Smith goes second.
God. Oh dear.
Get it together, Mathew.
It's just Graham doing Graham things, isn't it? Robert Smith,
Tim
Richie
Venting
Michelle
improves.
now moves up to second place within 2/10 of Max Mulder. A few drivers on an invalid lap. Car 68's the next one. That is Borough Bex. You could throw a blanket over that top five. It's pretty close.
It is indeed, and around this circuit as well, it's going to be interesting going into the race. I mean, quite a short lap in comparison to circuits we've been to. So Assetto and Borough Bex now within that 1 second gap as well, so he's finding the time. I believe it's then Mark Tucker to the line, no improvement from him, then DJ Phil. So, I mean, for some people, now would be the last time to get a lap time in.
Yeah.
Get in the pits, get really in the zone, get the tyres where you want them, and give yourself that time to get the lap time on the board, because it may not work. You may struggle to nail the lap, and at that point you're in trouble, because then you haven't got any other chances after that.
And as well, look, you're looking at a few cars all tight in Sector 1 as Hansen comes to the line, but he'd slowed down before then, so clearly maybe going for that last run. Next man on the lap is that of your pole sitter currently, Max Mulder, who will be looking to add pole position to his points tally, the point for pole position. He slows over and pulls over and returns to the pit lane. Maybe he'd had a problem just before we went on board with him. So next car on lap is 23.
Yeah, but at the minute there's a little race going on. Robert Smith and Tim Venting out on track together and fighting for positions here, as I believe Robert Smith is on an out lap, and I think also so is Tim. So both of these two racing at this stage, and they're not on a lap, as Richie Michelle currently also in that gaggle of cars. But I think it's then the 23 of Mark Tucker next on a valid lap.
So let's see what Tucker can do then as he comes down towards that final corner, and around it he goes now. What will he be able to do down the start-finish straight? Can he move it up any more places in this race? This is going to be an interesting one to keep our eyes on. Note stays P14 at the minute. DJ Phil is behind him, who's currently the slowest driver out on circuit at the moment. That is Paul Williams pulling it back into the pits. He was on a lap, but he's going to try the pit lane and manages to successfully negotiate this one. Unlike Graham, Robert Smith and Tim now give each other a bit of a breathing room. Next up's Kieran Argent. Only needs to find himself 2/10. He moves himself up into 7th place. Doesn't improve that time round. Next car is Dennis Hansen. We know he's on a lap, and Max Mulder is on a lap. So it'll be the 1:13 of Gomez.
Yeah, Gomez next to be under the limelight. See if he can improve on his lap time, get a little bit closer to the leaders on this one, and I think that Mustang will be a right nightmare to be stuck behind. So we'll see what Gomez can do, but he's trying his very best at the minute, and it's going to be it's such a big car as well. Yeah. I mean, it probably gives Bentley vibes to you, Matt. I don't know how well the Bentley drives, but this thing is probably the complete opposite.
It drives similar to the Bentley. This has just got that bit more power than the Bentley. That's the problem this has. And there is a car off behind him. Heard it going across the gravel. That was possibly Borough Bex behind. So what can Insert Coin do now as he comes around the final corner? Going to come down towards that start-finish straight. What is his lap time going to be? 6/10 off the pole at the moment. No improvement there for him. Next car on lap is the 23 of Mark Tucker again.
It is indeed, and he exits the final corner now. Coming to the line, 2.7 off the pace, and no improvement for himself. And who is then next to the line?
DJ Phil.
DJ Phil.
He's pitting.
3.3. Yeah, he's off. Max Mulder's had a big off, and he is now out of the session. Robert Smith, no improvement. Tim Venting, no improvement. It is now Argent next coming to the line. And 1.3 off the pace, no improvement for him either. So now we look to Richie Michelle, who's on an invalid lap. So we look back to Gomez once again on a valid lap, while Max Mulder's playing in the sand.
Yeah, and Hansen just drops it wide on the curve there, so that's not going to be what he wants at all. He's going to want to make sure he could try and keep that one on the circuit to get a decent lap time on the board. It's going to be an interesting one to see as they come down towards the final couple of corners. The final couple of seconds. Hansen starts one last lap. It's Gomez who's going to be the first man to finish, because I don't think he's going to get another from there.
No, he definitely won't. Gomez will be the last of the qualifiers. S2M Burbex as well. Keep an eye on what he's got underneath that McLaren. Obviously here, qualifying is key. And right now, Max is in the prime position. Gomez now exits the final corner now. Nabil Gomez, what can he do? Any improvement? No. S2M Burbex, slight but not enough.
John Gooday to the line. He improves up to 13th place. Max Mulder is done for the session. The next car is the 93 of Richie Michel. So has Max Mulder messed up on the final couple of laps here in this qualifying session? Because at the moment, Richie Michel still out there on a lap looking to try and improve it as much as he can. It is DJ Phil and Dennis Hansen still on a lap time as well out there. So this is going to be interesting to see. Little wiggle there from Richie Michel. Down on his time. Is he going to make it up through this part of the lap? No, another moment there. So that's probably going to be his qualifying done. He already pulls to that inside line. He knows he's not going to improve. It's DJ Phil's turn now.
Hansen's up by 6 tenths. Going 7 tenths now into the final quarter.
Into that top 4, Dan.
He's just lost 7 tenths. He just lost 2 tenths out of the final corner, but he's still half a second up at this stage. He comes to the line now.
Goes P5. Yeah, good little result. Good little qualifying. Nearly as well. What's that? That's just over a tenth off the back, Dan, of Tim Venting. That could have been a nuisance. But Richie Michel and Robert Smith, they've put themselves up there and made themselves heard in terms of this championship fight, which could really swing it towards Max Mulder if them cars finish in between them.
Yeah, definitely so. Max has just got to get a good start and disappear into the distance while Tim has to clear them and then catch his good friend up as quickly as he possibly can. But again, it's all about strategy here. Maybe Tim's got a plan that might be able to help him out, but the weather's not going to make any effect into this. It's all about pure dry and who's going to come up with the clever strategy towards this race. But the interesting thing here as well, Max gets the inside line, the dirty side of the circuit, while Richie Michel has the outside. So yeah, interesting.
That is something that I noticed last night in the GT4s is that line, you know, very different. But I suppose you want that inside line, get as good a run through turn 1 as possible to make it as interesting as possible coming out the corner and defending your line. Either way, it's going to be a tough one. Dan, just talk us through who's going to win this race from your perspective. Who are you fancying for this one?
You can't look from the Dutchman himself. It's got to be Max Mulder, who's probably the favourite. And I'm going to put my money on Max.
I'm going to go the way of Richie Michel. Don't know, I fancy a different winner. So
would be nice to see.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see what happens. Richie Michel for me for the win. Has he won a race this year? I don't think he has he? Richie Michel. Let's take a quick look.
10 seconds.
And where is he? He's there. No, he hasn't. He's had 1 second and 4 thirds, so probably due a win.
Fingers crossed, and there's definitely a good chance for him here.
So then for round 20 this season, we're about to get underway, and it's going to be an interesting fight to the end, that is for sure. It's going to be an interesting one to see what these drivers can do as the night progresses. Obviously not the last week of drop scores for these drivers, so they will get to go again next week for that. Although there's a lot of drivers who have missed 1 or 2 races, so their drop score is already 0, so they'll get to go again in this one though. So it's going to be an interesting one. Going to be difficult to look past Max Mulder, but yeah, he's got to get a good getaway, and he's just made a couple of mistakes in qualifying. That might make him a little nervous going into an hours-long race.
It will indeed, and obviously the other thing that will be worrying him is Richie Michel, who's he's been very quick all night, and he's had a damaged car and still been quick as well. So we'll see what he can do, and I think he's going to be watching over his shoulder. If Max gets into the lead and gets into this part of the circuit quite comfortably, then I don't see why Max can't win this race.
Don't forget, if you want to see some more GT3 action, join me and Phil Raiden tomorrow night 8 p.m. GMT +1 for all the action of Zolder in the pros, where Dan will be taking to the circuit. And as well, make sure you go down to the description and check out our fantastic sponsors. Design Manchester, the producers of vinyl graphics, laser engraved gifts, mugs, printed clothing and much more, including some SimPlay merchandise. Head over to their Facebook page. And Audio Sport, manufacturers of VW Transporter, T4 Audio Solutions and Styling Products. Head over to www.audiosport.co.uk or check out their Facebook page, as well as check out the Facebook page of and Instagram and TikTok of SimPlay Motorsport. Get involved in all the action over here as well if you want to be a part of the staff, whether that's for any sort of role, stewarding, commentating, whatever it may be. Make sure you head over to the Discord, as well as check out the SimGrid as well, where the Discord is also placed. We're getting ready to go racing for round 20 of the season. This is going to be an interesting one to keep your eyes out on and to see what these drivers are going to do around here. Max Mulder on the front row of the grid with Richie Michel in second place. Who is going to be the top dog here tonight? It is all going to be an interesting question we're going to ask ourselves in an hour's time on this clear evening at Zandvoort. Who will be the top dog? Can Max Mulder get his 25th race win? Can Richie Michel or Tim Venting or Robert Smith stop him? It's going Max's way in this championship. 94 points separate them. He can pull more points over his teammate here tonight.
As I think we've lost Mac there.
No, still here. Sorry, no, just went quiet. Still here. And we are for round 20. We're green and go, and it is a good start. The green flags wave all around Zandvoort, and already there's cars going side by side. Maybe looking to go three wide is Borough Bex in the background with Dennis Hansen. Tim Venting's going to try and go the long way around the outside, as is Richie Michel. And just they come up towards the left-hander, can they flick it left to maybe keep hold of the position? Tim's got ahead of Robert Smith. That's a great move from the Ferrari. Richie couldn't do the same to Max, and we all look like we're through cleanly this time, Dan, as through the hairpin for the first time we come. It's Max from Richie from Robert Smith. From Tim Venting from Robert Smith. Then it's Dennis Hansen, who's got Naval Gomez pretty close to him, giving him a bit of a push up the hill, and down they drop now. And Kieran Argent already looks like he's got damage, huge damage on the front of his car. And Paul Williams is down at the back of the pack with big problems as well.
Yeah, Paul Williams has ended up in the wall, possibly contact with him and Kieran Argent maybe. That's possibly what's happened there. But Richie Michel tried the outside of turn one, but just did not have enough of an overlay. And I don't think he moved over enough as well to make Max panic. But Max, though, in the lead and looking like he's trying to extend the gap as quickly as he possibly can. But Tim Venting has done the important job. He's cleared Robert Smith. Now he just needs the second. Now he needs to get his fellow Ferrari driver.
He does indeed. We've got Graham's just got past Kieran Argent for that P9 and 10, and battles happening all the way down the field. Dean Wasoki's a little off the pack, but like I say, Paul Williams doesn't look like he's got major damage on his Lamborghini. Has he just been tapped around, had a spin? Whereas I don't know where Kieran Argent has got that damage. I don't see anybody with any other problems on the car. His bonnet is pretty much lifted. I wonder if he's bounced off the wall somewhere. That could be an early stop for Kieran Argent, depending on how the car's feeling. But it's Max Mulder who's going to lead over the line from Richie Michel and Tim Venting. The top three at the end of the first lap, already pulling away a pretty significant gap. Then it's Robert Smith from Dennis Hansen, Naval Gomez, Borough Bex, Justin Winter with Graham. Going to look up the inside. Are we going to see a bit of a send it up the inside, nice and easy? Justin tries to turn in, can't too much because there's a bright blue BMW next to you. Now gets the power out of the corner. This is where Justin will have the inside line, and Graham just manages to keep in front there. I thought he was going to make contact almost.
Very close indeed, but Richie Michel, though, has keeping Max Mulder honest. And the thing is, though, while Richie Michel is keeping Max honest, and Tim as well, they're going to be staying quite close to one another. And Robert Smith is going to be the one interested in all this. If they make contact with one another, again, he's going to be the one that's just further back, and he will benefit. He will have time to react with anything that's going on. And Dennis Hansen going with him. Gomez having a much better start, better Borough Bex, and Graham now clearing the Porsche. He is now on the move.
He is now on the move again, and he's going to pull out here It's Justin Winter just having a look on the back of Graham. Graham takes a bit of a wider line. That's not too bad. In fact, that's Robert Smith, who's just appeared in front of him. So he's dropped down the order as we're watching this fight. So Robert Smith has had a moment to drop down the order. Now Justin Winter just keeps getting the wrong side of Graham. Kieran Argent's off in the background. That's going to allow Brian Craig to come through. Kieran's not going to fight that one too hard. He knows he's got the damage. Here comes Diego Flores. Although Kieran Argent looking back up the inside of Brian Craig. Gets it stopped on the apex. Brian has to take to the gravel, and Kieran Argent will come back around the outside. Lovely move. Kieran's still got some fight left in him.
He has indeed, even though he's got a bit of damage to the front end of his car, he's still got some fight left in him. Meanwhile, Justin Winter looking around the outside of Graham in the final corner, and if he gets that job done, that'd be impressive. But Graham holds the position as they're just catching the other BMW driver of Robert Smith, and Justin Winter properly on a charge here.
He is properly on a charge at the moment. He's doing fantastic so far, and this is going to be an absolutely interesting race to see what Robert Smith can do. He's got to come back in this one. Like you say, you were just saying momentarily that he's got to try and stick with these leaders if he can while they're starting to fight. Well, something happened. He dropped down the pack. Borough Becks as well dropped behind Hansen. And no, it was Hansen ahead of Borough Becks. Sorry, he's still where he is. But it's Robert Smith who's got to fight back in this race. Brian Craig still looking on the back of Argent. And then he's got Diego Flores, DJ Phil, Mark Tucker and John Gooday all behind him. Dean Wisoki's dropped off the back of these a little bit. He's got Paul Williams gaining on him for a little bit of ground to make up after his poor start early on in this race.
Argent again under some pressure from Brian Craig, who looked up the inside there. A very optimistic move there, but nonetheless, he had a look. And Diego Flores now looking to possibly try and gain some advantage out of it, and DJ Phil's there as well. So very close racing from this mid-pack here at the minute. But right now, Max Mulder extending the gap from Richie Michelle and from Tim Venting. Not massively, but they're too busy having their own little race at the minute. And Tim is probably starting to get frustrated behind the back of Richie Michelle.
John Gooday can't clear these cars behind as well. We look at Mark Tucker. Look, he's having a fight with Diego Flores. John Gooday trying to go around the outside. They can't do so there. Dean must have had a moment. He's now 3 seconds behind Paul Williams. So he's had an off at some point, dropping down the order. Justin Winter not as close to the back of Graham. Naval Gomez has been passed by Borough Becks at some point in this race. Borough Becks moving up to 5th place, having one of his better weeks is Borough Becks. Richie Michelle's losing touch with Max Mulder, but he's still got Tim Venting right behind him. And while ever Tim's stuck there, he's got to out-drag that throw in a straight line. But same car, pretty much same speed. Depending on the difference in setups, this is going to be helping Max Mulder pull away while these two are scrapping. Naval Gomez got
on the attack. Argent just regained the position on Brian Craig, so Brian Craig did get past him, and Argent got back in front. DJ Phil went off at turn 1, has managed to get going once again, but either way, this gaggle of cars are really hotting up at the minute.
Dean Wisoki's into the pit lane. That's an early pit stop for him, so not sure what's happened in this race for himself then. Maybe went off and collected himself some damage. Either way, Diego Flores, Brian Craig,
Richie Michelle's in the wall.
Richie Michelle is out on his own.
I'm not sure, but he's got damage to the front end of his car. There's no damage to Tim Venting's car, so I think it was pretty much on his own.
That's going to be an interesting one to see. Yeah, just looking at Tim Venting's, doesn't look like there's a scratch on that car, so it looks like it could be another BSP one too, and that's going to hurt Richie Michelle, who's in that battle with John Gooday to try and get into that top 3 in this championship, and maybe look at them promotion spots. Here comes Borough Becks with Naval Gomez, then it's Robert Smith now back up 6th, then it's Richie Michelle with that damage from Graham, Justin Winter, then a huge gap back to Kieran Argent as he has got some major damage in this race. Brian Craig's P11 from Diego Flores, then it's Mark Tucker, DJ Phil, and John Gooday has just got nothing done. He can't even get past DJ Phil at the moment. He is struggling tonight.
He is indeed, and like you said, he just does not gel with his circuit whatsoever, and he's just struggling to clear cars at the minute. This is probably his best opportunity into turn 1. The Lamborghini, not the strongest in a straight line, but still, the Aston Martin got no answer for the Lamborghini.
No answer for that Lamborghini at all, and John Gooday has no answer for him in general. So it's not going the way that John Gooday would have wanted. He's now trying to look to the outside of that second king into turn 3, now towards turn 4. DJ Phil just gets on the grass. That's going to unsettle the braking. And now John can tuck underneath. And now John gets up the inside and through. And DJ Phil helpless there to do anything.
Indeed, he is. And Graham and Justin Winter still going at it. This is a good little fight between Robert Smith, Richie Michelle, Graham and Winter. Then there's a bit of a gap to Argent, Craig. Gomez, Flores and Tucker. So now Goudet can try and work his way onto the back of this group again. And 44 drive through for Di Masocchi for speeding in the pit lane.
And I'll tell you what, this is testament to Argent here and how difficult this circuit is to overtake.
Oh, Justin Winter and Graham are off.
Hello, we're watching the Kieran Argent fight, and them two have spun around. They're facing each other. But I was just about to say, testament to Kieran Argent for how tricky this circuit is. He's been able to defend well and then use that Mustang straight line speed where he needs to get back alongside and through.
Indeed he has, and he's now up into 8th place because of his persistence. So well done to Argent to just keep on going with that damage. It's going to take a lot, though, for these cars to find a way through. But the gap has all started to spread out a little bit. S2 and Burbeck starting to bring the gap down to Dennis Hansen.
Yeah, Graham's got damage on the front of that BMW. Bonnet's just lifted slightly, so that's going to be hurting him in this one already. Pit window doesn't open 47 minutes, but here we go. Brian Craig getting side by side with the Ford Mustang. Kieran this time is going to be on the outside line, not having that outright straight line speed of the Mustang because of that damage on his front end. Leaves a Cosworth up the inside. Brian Craig this time is through. I don't think Kieran Argent could do anything about that, and he now drops down to P8 in this race. He's going to have a look though at the hairpin, and that was not a Mustang-sized gap.
Definitely not, and the Mustang's quite a large car anyway, but I think the grunt is going to kick in now. You see the Mustang will start to bring the McLaren back in, down this. Not really a straight, but kind of it might as well be a straight, but it's a very flowy kind of corners. But into the corners now, and the Mustang is going to struggle with that damage. And Justin Winter right behind DJ Phil at this minute.
So Justin Winter on the back of DJ Phil. That is for position. DJ Phil just being able to pull the car where he needs to. Justin Winter hop, skip and a jump over the curve. This is not what Greasy Bandit needed over BSP. Two drivers having bad results here. And this is exactly what they did not need. And at the moment, they've got Paul Williams gaining on them. Winter having a little look there on DJ Phil. And yeah, can't get the move done. DJ Phil being a bit of a nuisance. Borough Bex is now getting within a second up front of Dennis Hansen, Dan.
Yeah, he's just onto the back of him as the top two just start to creep away from the rest of the pack. But
Argent's off. Oh, so's DJ Phil and Winter. Just got on board with Argent, and Phil and Winter come parking side by side with him. Oh, that was nearly an unsafe rejoin. Argent on Graham there. Graham gets past all three of them, picks up 3 places. I think Paul Williams got through as well. Yes, he did. He's on the back of John Goodey. So it is absolute chaos down the back end of the field. Possibly more damage for Argent in that Mustang. Is it going to be worth him pulling it into the pits? I don't think he is. Oh, we'll take a look. Sorry, no, he's not going to, but damn, he's got a long way to go. He's still got about 12 minutes to go.
Yeah, but you might as well just go with it. You know, track position is more key. You don't want to pit twice around here. And S2M Borobeck's really in a groove here at the minute. And he's starting to give Dennis Hansen a little bit more to think about. But Tim Venting's brought the gap down to Max Mulder by 1.5 seconds. So that's something to keep an eye on. But Dennis Hansen running a little bit wide further back. And S2M Borobeck's getting closer and closer and closer. Just waiting for that mistake to happen.
He is indeed, and he's really dragging Hansen in now. It's going to be an interesting one to keep our eyes on in this race and in this battle. Dean's got to do his drive-through next lap. Otherwise, that'll be a disqualification to him.
Tucker at the minute still trying to find a way past on Flores, but he's finally done it. So Diego loses out of there, and Tucker finally gains that position. It's taken him a while to get there, but he's finally got through on him. And Williams now starting to give Goudet some hard time, and that's not often we hear that. So
no, it's not.
John really is struggling here at Zandvoort.
He does not like it, does he, at all? And Justin Winter's trying to get back on the rear of Graham Sutcliffe, and who's got that damage to the front end of that BMW. Kieran Argent as well has got DJ Phil within 9/10 of a second. Just going to show how much that Mustang is struggling here. And Borough Beck's really getting close now to the back of Dennis Hansen. Tim Venting, fastest lap of the race. He's brought that gap down to Max Mulder. And now can Flores get on the back of Mark Tucker once again, coming into turn 1. Really outbreaking himself. Nearly goes into the gravel. Paul Williams getting closer to John Goodey, and here comes Justin Winter within 6 seconds. And Kieran Argent, Dan, is pulling that trigger. The Mustang's getting too hard to drive, and he's coming in 10 minutes before the pit window. That could be a long one for Kieran Argent.
It could indeed, and I think that's probably the wrong call. He should have just stuck with it and do the one stop. Yes, it was going to hurt, but either that or pit again twice. But he obviously can't handle that pain. Will Di Masocchi now finally come in and do his drive-through? That's the question. He's currently coming into the final corner now. I'll keep an eye on that, but he needs to do it now. Meanwhile, the gap to the leaders is down to a second, and Dean does come in to do his drive-through.
He does indeed, so it was his last chance to do it. Borough Beck's right up the rear wing of Dennis Hansen through there. So Dean will just drive through the pit lane, and Kieran Argent, you imagine, is going to be in there for some time with that big damage in his head to the back of his car. So him and Dean will be the two that's had to pit twice in this race. Graham, a little bit of damage. He's going to the end. As down the start-finish straight comes Borough Becks. Dean finishes his drive-through penalty, rejoins onto the circuit and lets these two drivers go. So doesn't put the full beans on out the corner, manages to stay stationary. And Kieran Argent as well comes out the pits. So Dean has unlapped himself from Kieran Argent, and Kieran Argent stationary as he now lets Richie Michelle go as well. But a good battle here for Borough Becks and Dennis Hansen. I'll tell you what, Kieran Argent probably regrets the Ford Mustang, but these last 2 weeks in general have not gone his way at all. He has really been in the wars with that Ford Mustang.
Yeah, really not gone his way at all, and the Mustang's not probably helped him either. It's too twitchy in the rear, and I think he would have been better off going back to his old pal, the Bentley, just to get through the season, I think. But obviously, possibly the BOP next season coming into effect, and the Bentley will then be a lot more competitive once again. Yeah. So we could see the return of the Bentley and many other cars as well.
Audi, Nissan, Lexus,
Retia,
yeah, Jag. Yeah, the Aston V12, the very first Honda. The Honda could make a better return. We know that Mike's already having a look at it. Tim's down to 7/10 to Max Mulder. Borough Beck still up the rear of Dennis Hansen. Brian Craig's on the rear of Naval Gomez. No, he's not. He's going up the inside of Gomez. Gomez has gone a little deep. Brian Craig, thank you, Mama, for the carrots. Up the inside he goes. Lovely move from him there, and that is a great job done. At the moment, Borough Beck still chasing him down, and Max has let him go. Max has just let him go halfway down the start straight. He slowed down and let Tim Venting go here. Are they looking at a winner piece around their home circuit?
Possibly, but that was yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure. If anything, that's probably put Max maybe at risk. But either way, they're the ones running the team. I don't know. That's possibly what they've opted to do. But if that was me, I wouldn't have. If that was Mike behind me, I wouldn't have given it to him. No way.
No way. Definitely, if it's Mike, especially.
Definitely, especially last season.
Oh, I tell you what, Justin Winter was really looking up the inside of Sutty there, coming through the final couple of corners. He was really trying to have a nibble at the back of him, but no can do for Justin Winter. And now Max is right on the rear of Tim, so a bit confused as to the strategy, because this could really start to put these two. Dennis Hansen's got the gap down under 5 seconds, looking, while these two are just sort of
playing.
Yeah, not mucking around, but playing a little bit. This is bringing other cars into the equation slowly.
We'll see how this goes. Might end in laughter, or it might end in tears. Who knows? And we'll see what happens at the end of it. But nonetheless, Hansen not really. I mean, he's gaining on them, but you know, if they really wanted to, they could just get into formation and then disappear again. Yeah. But Max and Tim looking like they're trying to have a bit of fun here, while everyone else is struggling to match their pace. As Borough Beck seems to have hit a wall and not really done anything with it since. So he's dropped back down, while Justin Winter and Graham are going back at it once again. 3/10, and Winter looking left, looking right, looking for any opportunity to get past the BMW, and just can't seem to do so at this stage.
And Graham put in the BMW exactly where it needs to be. Currently running that bit of front end damage. That's where he's struggling for outright top speed. And this is going to be interesting for Graham now. What will he be able to do for the rest of this race? Gomez is just losing out a bit more to Brian Craig. That gap's open up to 8/10. John Gooday's within 6/10 now of Diego Flores, maybe looking for a top 10 here. Max still within that 6/10 of a second of his teammate, and Dennis Hansen's got the gap down to 4.1 now. So again, just takes out 7/10 over the last lap. So Max and Tim want to be a bit careful. You know, it's all right having fun and games, but this could cost you a result later on in the night. 42 minutes and 40 seconds left. Winter turned in a little bit there, it looked like, on Graham, and backs out of that one. And Winter tonight, this second race down, we've seen him off with Graham, we saw him off with DJ Phil, didn't see the actual incidents, and he's pretty much where he has been all night. He's not been able to get through, although Graham goes a little deep. Justin looks underneath, but he's not going to get that one done.
Yeah, it's just been a bit leery, has Justin Winter just not being able. I think the Porsche possibly just struggling a little bit in general grip. It's probably got too much grip and just slipping and sliding everywhere. But either way, he's just not looked on form.
No, he hasn't. He's been on a good bit of runners, Justin Winter, recently, and it's not been so great for him here today. But either way, it's going to be an interesting one to keep our eyes on then as the leaders come across the line. And what will happen in this race for them? Who will win this one? Because Max is back within half a second of Tim again. And Borough Bex is still there. Well, this is the fight currently for 12th and for 13th and 14th place, apologies, between Graham and Justin Winter. Not much developing there. Naval Gomez has got back on the rear of Brian Craig, and that Mustang, you'll be able to see it just slowly reel in the car in front. It runs out of straight line, and through turn one they go. Now Max to Dennis, 5.1 seconds back as it was a couple of laps ago. Borough Beck's trying to get that gap down back under half a second. Just drivers everywhere, really ebbing and flowing, isn't it, at the moment? One time the time's up, one it's down, and no real moves happening, but just getting closer. And that's kind of what Zandvoort brings you, isn't it? It gets you closer to the back of them, then you have to drop off a little bit, and you just can't seem to find that way through.
Yeah, not until the pit window opens and the strategy then comes into play. But at this minute, Max and Tim still racing hard at one another, but they've extended the gap. Even though they are racing, they've extended the gap to Dennis now. Yeah, it just takes Max to just miss a break, or Tim to just misjudge his braking, and both of them are off. Yeah. So they do have to be careful if they wanted to play games, which we love to see. We love to see these two race, especially against one another. But pretty much the constructors are in hand. So yeah, Tim's gone to defend now. So no, he's actually gone and let Max through. So they're doing a kind of a synchronized leading the race at the minute.
Interesting thing, but yeah, like you say, Dan, one false move and this costs him in the long run. Borough Bex from Dennis Hansen here then coming through in P3 and P4. Naval Gomez just off the back down in P5, P7 and 8. Apologies. This is where Gomez might be able to catch up to the back. There's Dimasaki just in front, who is a couple of laps down after his pit stop and drive-through penalty. Justin Winters lost out to Graham a bit of a margin. That was within a 10th. It's now back up to 8th. That's come down slightly since. John Gooday has got past Diego Flores. So has Paul Williams. They've both managed to get ahead and pull away from Diego. So John moves himself up into the top 10, and Winter now gets a good run. Graham's already defending down the start-finish straight. He's all over the marbles. Justin Winter's being forced to the outside line. If anybody knows how to defend, it's Graham Sutcliffe. Into turn one they go. Justin Winter on the outside of Graham. And again, that Porsche just cannot get out of turn one in front.
No, he cannot, so he's just going to have to stick behind the BMW driver once again. And he's gone wide onto the grass, and that's ruined his chance there, and has to rebuild that gap once again. So, role reverse again. Max now leads this race. I think they've probably been watching too many touring cars, thinking that every time they leave the lap, they get a point.
Yeah.
God, imagine if we'd done that. That'd be too complicated. Jeez. You'd have to re-watch the stream multiple times.
Oh, don't. Max leads the race, though, from Tim Mentic. Dennis Hansen's third, with Esteban Borobeck's P4 at the moment. Let's go to the Naval Racing Team. And Naval Gomez down in P8. Robert Smith, I noticed, to Richie Michel. That gap just went under a second. It's gone back over at the moment. That's an interesting one to keep our eyes on. It's Brian Craig, Naval Gomez, Mark Tucker, John Gooday from Paul Williams, Diego Flores, Graham from Justin Winter, then DJ Phil, Kieran Argent, who is a couple of laps down, and Dean Wasocki as well, couple of laps down in this race. So Tim Mentic now on the back of Max once again. Borough Beck's trying to get closer to Hansen, and Michelle now does have that gap under a second to Robert Smith. And what happened to these two, Dan? Because Robert Smith and Richie Michelle both running up there, and we saw the aftermath of them both, but didn't see what happened individually as well.
I'm not sure, to be honest, either. Yeah, Robert Smith, I think he had his own little moment and dropped it on his own. And I think, yeah, to be honest, so much going on, it's difficult to focus on what actually happened to him.
Well, either way, it's going to be an interesting one to keep our eyes on and see what we can do through, or what they can do through the evening. Kieran Argent's catching him. He's a lap down, but he's going to want to quickly unlap himself as soon as possible, because he'll want to get back on the lead lap to as many cars as quick as he can here.
Yeah, indeed he does. And momentarily, Justin Winter did get ahead of Graham, but once again, Graham's back in front of him.
Yeah, so what's happened down the order? Let's just go on board them two. Oh, he's pushing him down the hill pretty much. Through the long right-hander is Justin Winter there. So clearly got ahead, and then back in front got Graham. But the pit window opens for all the drivers. The two leaders decide to start. The 666 of Dennis Hansen undercutting here as Justin Winter goes up the inside of Graham, makes a lovely move, a little wiggly on exit. Graham's now to the outside. Possibly shouldn't have let Justin have that undercut. And Graham now, look, cannot do anything about it. Through goes Justin Winter, Kieran Argent straight into the pits.
And Richie Michelle, meanwhile, is right on the rear wing of the BMW of Robert Smith once again. And he's very close to the rear wing of that BMW and looking for any primal opportunity to get through.
Paul Williams within half a second of John Gooday. And then they're going to look for that undercut. No, they are not. So that is interesting to see Paul Williams getting close to the back of John Gooday again. Maybe John's just made a mistake somewhere. But like I say, Richie Michelle not opting to come into the pits, repair that damage. Clearly feels his pace is good enough at the moment to stay out on track. And Tim's back up to 4 tenths of a second on Max Mulder. As Dennis Hansen is done. Where's Mark Tucker? He's gone through. John's gone through. Paul's gone through. Diego Justin gone through. So, no, DJ Phil hasn't. So DJ Phil quite the gap behind. So Dennis Hansen will comfortably come out ahead of him. Argent's on his way out. DJ Phil will put another lap on Argent then. Although it only says Argent's a lap down on him. So maybe that's just a lap down to DJ Phil. For the time being, Phil obviously has to pit, and Argent will try and find his way through past DJ. You can bet your bottom dollar on that one. Paul Williams within 8 tenths. Richie Michelle now back to 6 tenths. And the two leaders back on 4 tenths of a second of each other as they come to start lap 15 of this race. 35.5 minutes to go.
Still quite a bit away, near enough halfway to this race. And Esteban Borobex now pits, and obviously trying to react to Dennis Hansen. Hansen comes out with quite a small lead over him. We'll see if Esteban Borobex makes any gain on that, as Graham now has gone green. But Richie Michelle trying to find a way on Robert Smith at the minute. And then it's your main fight at the front between the two BSP racing boys of Tim Ventig and Max Mulder. And obviously this is the fight for the championship as well. And at the minute, Max is doing everything right at the moment.
He is doing everything right at the moment, and every point he takes over Tim tonight is just going to put him one step closer. Borobeck still yet to be dropped as Dennis Hansen's coming around the final corner now, comes onto that start straight. Borobeck still not dropped yet as Paul Williams and Dean Wysocki both into the pits. Now Borobeck gets dropped as Dennis Hansen comes flying past. Off the limiter comes Borobeck, and Dan undercut. He's just that little bit more powerful.
It is here, and obviously the clean air helped him as well. Clean air helped the pair of them really. But either way, it's gone into Hansen's hands. And Tim Venting, meanwhile, has actually lost time to Max here. He's now 1.3 off the back of him. So possibly a little mistake in the lap, who knows. But Max, though, pulling away from his teammate.
Just going to show that there are mistakes can creep in and can happen here. Then Borobeck's 1.8 off the back of Dennis Hansen. They get ahead of Paul Williams, who's down in that pit lane at the moment. I believe DJ Phil... Has he gone through? He has gone through. He's been unlapped by Kieran Argent. Kieran's managed to get ahead of him. Kieran's chasing down Graham, who's on the same lap as him. Where is Graham as Robert Smith decides to come into the pits now on this lap? Where is Graham in relation to Kieran? So Graham last corner, Kieran top end of the circuit, so a lot in it at the moment, but interesting. Justin Winter has got past Diego Flores, so he's managed to clear Sutty, and he's now managed to clear Diego Flores, so that is M2 done for Justin Winter, who's really on a comeback drive. He's not had it his own way, and John Gooday, due to a couple of pit stops, moves himself up to P7. Robert Smith in though, and everybody else stays out on track at this stage of the race.
Again, still a lot can change at this pace at the moment, and obviously a circuit like this, you cannot make any mistakes. As S2M Borobex was 1.6 behind, he looks a little bit closer. He's actually lost some time, but either way, he's sticking with Dennis Hansen. If anything happens to the top two, then he'll be in for a chance for some good points. But we'll see how the rest of this race pans out. But at the minute, your closest fight is probably well, actually there's no real close fights at the minute. They're all kind of spread out at the moment. Your closest is probably your leaders and S2 and Borobex.
Indeed it is.
Tim Pitts.
Paul Williams coming towards the end of his lap. Robert Smith just gets dropped and led away, so Paul Williams won't be able to get close to him. DJ Phil still not pitted and well off the back of Diego Flores at this stage of the race. Paul Williams, in fact, has he got past DJ Phil? No, he's currently registered as a lap down to DJ Phil at the moment. We'll be on the same lap as him when he crosses lights, just because Max is in between them. Due to that pit stop, Graham 13 seconds off the back of Paul Williams, and Kieran Argent's a bit further back. Dean Wasaki's got major damage again. He's down in 17th place. Is he about to pull this into the pit lane? Yes, he is. For yet, oh no, he's not. He just had a bit of a moment for yet another time in this race. Dennis Hansen gaining on the back of Diego Flores. You'll want to see the back of Diego as he misses his brakes by a country mile. Manages to keep it on the circuit though, and Diego Flores has just gone round himself.
Diego Flores, big mistake there, trying to get the car going once again. And he gets going finally, but where's his teammate? Coming up to the chicane now, so he's managed to get going before his teammate, but either way, that's a lot of time there lost, and he's got to try and recover and get back going again.
Tim out the pit lane, and Dennis Hansen not close enough to him at the moment. He's already around turn 1 into turn 2 and on his merry way so far. Borobeck's now within 0.8 of a second of him, though, due to him out-braking himself. So Justin Winter into the pits. Diego Flores carries on his way. Doesn't look like he's too much damage in that car. And at the minute, DJ Phil still not opting to pit with Robert Smith, 16 seconds behind him. When will Richie Michelle pit? That's the interesting one for me. He's only 24 seconds off the back of Max. So interestingly enough, he's he's had that spin and everything, but he's not a million miles behind.
No, he's not, but he's still got a little bit of damage to his car. He's probably a little bit out of sync now after having a couple of trips through a little couple of hiccups. So he's just now trying to just get himself back into a rhythm. But Max at the minute has got everything under control. Richie Michelle does now pit now. So Richie Michelle down the order.
Yeah, let's see where Robert Smith comes out to Richie Michelle. Robert Smith is actually nowhere near the start line here. He's already in fact, he's just pretty much started the lap, should I say. So he's got a lot of time to make up. Now, will Richie Michelle repair the damage as race control tell us we are halfway through the race? 30 minutes gone then. Plenty of time still to go in this one.
Tim Venting's under he's trying to pass Mark Tucker, but Mark Tucker wanting to pit, and in the pits he goes, and Tim continues on through. But really held up by Mark Tucker there, and I think that's going to hurt him when Max eventually pits. But Max himself has got some traffic ahead of him. I'm not sure who that is. I do hear a Porsche.
It's the 333. So is that possibly Brian Craig? Is the 333 on the back of DJ Phil? He's just got past DJ Phil, so yeah, going to be an interesting one to see. Richie Michelle is now away. He did not repair the damage, and he has massively jumped Robert Smith, and in fact as well has stayed ahead of Brian Craig. Where's Dennis Hansen, Borobex? They're already through, as was Tim. So I think for Richie Michelle here, has he managed to stay ahead of Diego Flores? Yes, he has.
Max has stayed out as well, so Max has continued on through. And Goudet using the long strategy here, hopefully to try and jump some cars as they were all pitting. Possibly, maybe that's his strategy, maybe going long to hopefully gain a couple of places here or there. But either way, he's trying to work his way up the order as best he can. But Tim Venting is your leading pitter, and S2 Borobex is absolutely flying now at this stage, and he is right on the back end of Hansen. He's got a great exit there.
He has got a great exit down towards the final couple of corners on this lap. 28.5 minutes remain in this race. Borobeck's doing a great job just letting Hansen take control of his braking area and do what he has to do. DJ Phil is now in the pits. You feel he's going to lose out to Paul Williams, Justin Winter, maybe even Graham as well in this pit window. And I just saw Kieran Argent getting past a moment ago on Diego Flores. He is trying to get ahead and pull away as much as he can. And DJ Phil, well, we say he could come out just behind Paul Williams. Where is he? Williams is through, Winter's through, Graham got through, Kieran's nowhere near, but DJ Phil stop-go penalty, that's going to hurt.
It is indeed, very much so. And now Goudet has got Tim Bentinck, and Bentinck goes through. John really not holding him up that much as they catch now Dean Wasocki as well, who's following DJ Phil, but Dean gets right out of the way, wants none up out of that, and allows those two to go through. Then it's DJ Phil next to lap, but S2M Borobeck still hassling the back of Hansen.
He is hassling the back of Hansen, and now we get to see the gap. Tim to Max Mulder. Where's Max? He's coming into the pits, I believe, because he's slow. Yeah, his dot goes a little darker, so into the pit lane comes Max Mulder now. Hopefully there will be no stop-goes or drive-throughs there, so it's just Diego Flores and John Goudet left to pit in this race. DJ Phil stop-go penalty. He's 10 seconds off the back of Graham. That's going to really help Argent get ahead of DJ Phil. But Borobeck, like you say, just cannot get through here at the moment and make any move stick. It's going to be difficult to see what he can do. But Tim Bentinck really flying down and trying to create as much opportunities for himself as he can into these final couple of corners. Max still not been lowered. We know they've got one of the furthest pit lane to travel down, but the shortest to get out of. And Tim now coming into these final couple of corners. Max yet to move. It's not going to take much for Max to start moving and get off that limiter quick, as here comes Tim, probably flat out exits the pit lane now. Does Max Mulder off the limiter now? And I think he's got a comfortable gap over Tim Bentinck, because DJ Phil is in for a drive-through penalty. Stop-go penalty.
He is indeed, and now Sven Borobeck's still trying to find a way through on Dennis Hansen. This is pretty much for third place in this race, and they've got to find a way through at the minute. Meanwhile, John Goudet's strategy might be starting to take effect, with other cars busy racing and battling hard. As, oh, there we go. I've just seen Flores and Brian Craig come together, and Flores trying to get going once as well, and Gomez just comes around the corner and passes the Porsche, who's yet to pit still. Yeah,
yet to pit, and damage on the rear of that Porsche. This might force him into the pits now. Yep, looks like it's going to. So that's bad news for Diego Flores, but yeah, an interesting... Oh, get that stopped. Make sure you don't hit the wall on pit entry, and he didn't do so. So not the second race for the FSO Juniors, but Borobeck's dad still can't get past Hansen.
No, he can't, and I think Hansen, obviously a good friend of Michael Eckel, so he's probably taught him how to be very good at defending and not making mistakes, because every time Overtaker or Clouden seems to get on the back of him, they just can't seem to find a way through, and it's the same here for Hansen and S2M Borobeck. So Hansen doing a fantastic job just staying in front.
He is at the moment doing exactly what he needs to do, and through he goes. And this is going to be an interesting one to see come the end of this race, who will be on that third step of the podium. Remember, if you like what you see here, join us live tomorrow night. Myself and Phil Braden will be live for the pro action around Zandvoort. We'll have hopefully a bit more of a fuller grid tomorrow. At least 20 drivers taking on this tricky circuit. John Goudet is going one more, so he's going to have to pit again at the end of the next lap. Diego Flores, we're going to see, he's going to tumble down the order. He comes out the pits. Graham also got through. Kieran Argent did not, though. So even though Kieran passed him on his journey round, he's going to be... Where is he? He's turn 2. So he's going to be... There we go. It's not 71 seconds. That is a lie. But Kieran could have the bit between his teeth here and look for a 14th place, I reckon.
He could indeed. He's just got to start, you know, just keeping it clean, keeping it consistent, and try and get onto the back of Flores if he just works his way through the order. Just being smooth, that's the main thing around Zandvoort. And once again, Tim Bentinck's brought the gap down to 7/10. So that gap should be interesting once again. Are they going to go at it this time round? But to be honest, Dennis Hansen is a million miles away. He's only 10 seconds back. So again, anything happens between the top two, then the two McLarens behind will be interested. I think S2M Borobeck has got to start thinking about it, start being a bit more forceful with this move.
Yes, he's got to start looking for it a little more. It's within 0.4 of a second. Show your nose, let the driver make a mistake maybe, but at the minute, no go for Borobeck in this one so far. Through the final couple of corners, there you go. We get to see the gap between Argent and Diego Flores, as well as Hansen starts flashing his lights at John Goudet. You're fighting John. I mean, John really should be thinking about pulling this one into the pits this time around. He'll run out of time, and yep, there we go. John Gooday's going to try and pit. Did that tactic work for him? That's going to be the biggest question. So through goes Hansen and Borough Becks. Where's Richie Michelle? He's at the final corner. Kieran is 16 seconds behind Flores. We'll keep our eyes on that gap coming down throughout the rest of the evening then. So Richie Michelle will get past. Brian Craig, he's a little further back. John is stationary now. Let's see when he gets lifted. So it's at least 25 seconds from when he was stationary before John will be able to go here. So here comes Brian Gray. Gomez behind's pretty close, as is Robert Smith. I reckon John's coming out ahead of Paul Williams. I reckon John's P9.
Yeah, which is a good recovery considering he's been struggling with this car and track combination. So we'll see Paul Williams now into the final sector, and John Goudet still not gone green at this stage, so it could be interesting. He's got his teammate as well coming up behind with Paul Williams as well, so Goudet still not gone green.
No, he's having a bit of a shocker here. Where is Paul Williams? So there goes Paul. Here comes Justin Winter. John goes green now. Here comes Mark Tucker, in fact. So did he change his tyres there in that run? Tucker, is he going to get on the round the outside of John Goudet? No, John's out the pits just before him. So John loses out. He's P11. So not the pit stop to go with this race that he'd have wanted.
Meanwhile, race leaders change once again. Tim now retakes the lead. And that was again orchestrated quite nicely between the two. So Borobeck's got within 3/10 in the middle sector, but once again, Hansen just seems to be able to pull a little bit more in the final. And yeah, just kind of like we got a fight at the front that's not really a fight, and we got a fight here that we got a driver that's just
42.
not quite got enough.
42. That's Tim. Yellow flag. There we go, Dan. Damage on the front of his Ferrari. And that is what we're saying. Now look who can see them. That is Borough Becks and Dennis Hansen. So the 42 a yellow flag, just as you say, there's no fight really at the front. They have been playful and they have made their mistakes. They have paid the price.
Investigation time.
Yeah, I'm just going to check Graham's car, because Graham was a back marker by them. His car looks clean. Max Mulder's car looks clean. I think he's dropped it on his own. I think they're playing too much as here comes Borough Becks. He's going to go on the inside of that of Dennis Hansen, and he does make the move stick. So Borough Becks gets through, and now it's him Venting having a bit of damage on the front of his Ferrari. Borough Becks could go hunting after him, looking for back-to-back podiums here.
He dropped it on his own.
Now,
he dropped it on his own. But as he's done it, Max has hit him as well. So Max had nowhere to go. So Max got front-end damage also.
And if that cost them a win and a second place in this race, you have to say they've got too cocky, changing places too many times.
Yeah, Tim's just going a little bit wide, just making a little bit too many errors. But we'll see. It's only front-end damage at the minute. They didn't hit the wall that hard, so it's probably nothing, and Tim can drive with it. But yeah, a little bit of mistake there from those guys. Not really what they need right now. You
called it earlier in the race, and yeah, that has happened. Now Borough Becks has got past Hansen. Does Borough Becks have the pace? With Tim, he's probably going to lose just a couple of tenths here or there in that car. Hopefully the performance isn't too bad after the hit from Max. So can Borough Becks now pull away from Dennis and gain on the rear of Tim Venting at the moment? Going to be an interesting one to see what happens in the rest of this race, as we are currently on board with Borough Becks. Kieran Argent, by the way, 3 minutes ago was 16 seconds behind Diego Flores. Diego has got some big damage on the rear again, and Kieran's within 9 seconds of him. So not sure what has happened. Oh, in fact, did he repair the damage? That's the big question.
Who knows? But either way, Flores has just been lapped by Richie Michelle there. Richie Michelle now working his way through, as Dennis Hansen is looking to re-attack S2M Borough Becks. But now Borough Becks has got a bit of clean air. He's got to try and use it to his advantage and try and catch Tim Venting and bring Hansen with him. And we could have an interesting fight right to the very end here. We could indeed. Hansen just outbreaks himself a little bit. That's going to hurt him coming into this next stage of that chicane towards the end of the lap. I noticed that Borough Becks has brought the gap down a couple of tenths this lap to Tim Venting. So it's going to be interesting to see what Borough Becks can do.
Great to see Burabek's up there having a set of podiums. He's not been on the podium since race 1 of the season. That was back at the Red Bull Ring. Was it the Red Bull Ring? No, Snetterton, apologies. Earlier on in the season. And Burabek's 3.2 that gap. It's just opened back up at this later stage. As Dennis Hansen looking up the inside. Not going to get it done there. Too far back. Burabek's gave him the room, though. Gave him the respect. And Hansen having a look. This is what's going to help Tim out. These two scrapping again.
Yeah, too busy fighting one another and not really working on it together to try and catch Tim Venting. They can see the car is wounded or has had a moment or something, and they're trying to catch him, but nothing at the minute as they're too busy dicing over one another.
Tim Venting's just put a lap on Graham. I thought I saw the blue flags. That is Graham who's a lap down. Naval Gomez trying to get within that 1.6 then of Brian Craig. They've got Robert Smith trying to hunt down after them. Paul Williams is in the top 10. Good result for Paul, whose daughter, I believe, got married at the weekend, so congratulations to the family. Justin Winters P10, and Kieran Argent he's not a million miles away. The next car in front isn't Diego Flores, it's Dean Wasocki who's a lap down, and the gap's actually opened up to 11 seconds, so is Argent had an off somewhere?
Possibly so. I'm still watching this fight between Hansen and S2 and Burabek's, and again, Hansen's had a moment.
He's just got on the curb, it looked like, and he's bounced the rear of the McLaren. Well, that puts the pressure off Burabek's and can allow Burabek's to focus on catching Tim. And that's probably put that one to bed with 16 minutes to go. Hansen's got to have some massive pace over Burabek's, which they just don't have over each other. They look like they've been pretty matching all night.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when S2 and Burabek's eventually catches Tim Venting, if he does so, because Tim seems like he's got that car under control with the damage. So we'll see if that gap does come down. If it does come down, then Hansen still may be in this if those two battled for too hard and too long.
He might still be. Let's keep our eyes out. There's still a good 16 minutes left in this race. This is going to be an interesting one to keep our eyes on as the race comes towards the end. 2 weeks left here in the Pro-Ams, and don't forget it's next week in the Pro-Am that will be their final week of drop scores for drivers who have a drop score to take. Burabek's 5 seconds off the back now of Tim Venting in this race. Closest fight happening is that of Naval Gomez to Brian Craig. That's within 1.1. So the Mustang driver of Gomez just started to... Now, with Gomez and Pacina looked better at Watkins Glen as well. Them two seem to be starting to click with this Mustang, starting to get it in that top 6 or 7 more often, as opposed to the likes of Kieran Argent.
Yeah, I just think as well some of the circuits have suited the Mustang a lot better. Watkins definitely was a circuit that would have suited the Mustang with its long straights and grunt that it needs. This circuit, on the other hand, I think Gomez has been quite lucky with what's else been going on. Other drivers struggling and obviously damage affecting others. So I think Gomez in this case might have been considering himself quite lucky in this one. But yeah, nonetheless, they're starting to get the hang of the Mustang. But it's a big old brute to handle and a big old brute to learn to drive. And I think over time they would start to just, you know, still make some mistakes, trying to get the best out of it, and just with its rear end grip is its problem. But right now Gomez is now right on the back wing of Craig, which is going to allow Smith to get a little bit closer as well.
It is indeed, and this could be where we see the grunt of the Ford Mustang coming down the start straight to overtake Brian Craig on the start line. Then let's see what happens here. Around the final corner, get that good exit in the slipstream. Down they come once again. Craig already goes to defend. Here comes Gomez. Does he think of going inside or outside? He's going to pull to that outside line. Just getting alongside, maybe getting in front just ever so slightly. Turns in a little bit on Brian Craig and cannot get the move done. They'll have to go once more, and that's going to allow, like you say, Robert Smith to get even closer. That gap's under 3 seconds for Robert Smith. Justin Winters within 1.3 of Paul Williams. So a fight there between Porsche and Lamborghini. We're going to stick with this McLaren Mustang fight as it comes towards the end of this race. 13 and a half minutes left to go. In what has been, Dan, a pretty mixed bag once again here in Pro-Am.
It has indeed, and a few drivers making silly errors, a few drivers being caught out by their own mistakes, and yeah, I think it's been a bit of a chaotic one. Hopefully the pros be a lot better tomorrow night, as we've had a bit of chaos in the GT4s, chaos in GT3 Pro-Am, Hopefully the pros will be able to keep it together, but obviously this is the nature of this circuit.
Yeah, it is indeed. So it's going to be an interesting one to see what's going to happen towards the end of this race. Gomez still on the back of Brian Craig as they come towards the back end of this lap. Still within that second time frame. He's just got to get the exit out of the final corner right to get onto the back of Brian Craig properly and get that momentum up down the start line and use that Ford Mustang power to get alongside him.
Yeah, and obviously the longer he stays there, the more and more chance that Smith will then start to give some pressure to these two. And more likely Gomez, because obviously Gomez will be the first one that he'll come up to. And this is kind of what Smith needs. He needed these two to start racing one another so he could start catching them. And Gomez not close enough to the back of that McLaren.
Yeah, he's not close enough at the moment in time. And he's got a bit more work to do to just get onto that rear and just see what he can try and pull out. Maybe move into that 6th place spot come the end of this race. Kieran Argent's got within 6 seconds, within 7 seconds of Diego Flores. Diego still going out there on track. Justin Winters within 8/10 of Paul Williams. They're coming down to the start line, pushing it as hard as ever. Down towards the start line they come. Justin Winter, Kieran now within 6 seconds of Diego Flores. So Diego Flores is the car ahead of Argent. He's got his teammate DJ Phil, who he's about to put a lap on. DJ Phil just struggling around here. Looks like tonight, strange season for DJ Phil. He started off on the wheel, started to look like he would get to grips with it, and went back to the pad because he wasn't getting the results he wanted. So it was an interesting one to see the tactic of DJ Phil, really.
Yeah, it's been an up and down season for DJ Phil. Moments of brilliance, and then at times he's just...
Craig and Gomez come together. Gomez bounces off the wall and across the gravel trap. Robert Smith's going to pick up that one place. Will he get another? Tim Venting's in the pits. Oh, he's got bigger damage, Dan. That front bonnet is just slightly lifted a bit more. Bye-bye championship, you have to say. It is that through the little playful games him and Max was playing, but Borough Beck's now in second, Dennis Hansen third, Richie Michelle up to fourth, Craig takes fifth, he's got Robert Smith on the back of him in seventh. Gomez, he looks like he's got... Is that the bonnet open again? No, it was just something loading in for some reason on my screen. Gomez now moves up. Paul Williams and Justin Winter, are they going to move up? I think Tim's repairing his damage, so I think John Gooday could get past. I think Tucker could get past.
Oh, no.
And I think Graham could get past. Yes, Dan, tell us what happened.
DJ Phil. DJ Phil trying to get out of the way, but he's on the racing line. He's hit the brakes, and Tim Venting nowhere to go.
We've lost DJ Phil. So Dean Wysocki gained 16th place. And DJ Phil, well, that's 17th for points. DJ Phil's back in. So was that a connection for DJ Phil then? But I know it still says Dean 17th at the moment. He's now going to be on the same lap, and DJ Phil's got 2 minutes to wait, so Dean will get ahead. Robert Smith now looking to get past. Where did Tim come out? He's just come out behind John Gooday. So with the fastest lap, he's only really going to get top 10 because John's 6 seconds behind Justin Winter, and there's only 9 minutes of this race left. But Robert Smith now all over the back of Brian Craig. This is all of a sudden for a P5.
It is for a P5, and S2 Borough Beck, like you said earlier on, only had one podium this season, and he's now on for a second place here. So he's going to be licking his lips at that and thinking, oh God, is it my birthday today?
He should be indeed. Borough Beck's done absolutely brilliantly. Here comes Robert Smith then, just clipping the grass on the braking. It's not allowed him to turn in as early as he would have liked. And John Gooday now having to fend off one of his rivals, effectively try and take some points off him in this championship fight. What is he behind? He's a good chunk behind, so this will help a little bit, a lot more for keeping that Constructors alive come the end of this one. Although Max Mulder leading the race, and where's your teammate? Only P9. It's not going to do massive amounts at all. Robert Smith still there. Dean Wysocki's now on the same lap as DJ Phil. So Dean will pass DJ Phil. At the moment, DJ Phil disconnected on circuit. So when Dean gets to that point, this is how ACC kind of works it. When Dean gets that point, which is now through Sector 1, he's past DJ Phil, because that must have been where DJ Phil had retired, or left, should we say, 'cause he's came straight back in. So that doesn't appear to have been a disconnection. But Tim's now got to chase after John Gooday.
He has indeed, and once again, Kieran's starting to bring that gap even further down on Diego. He might catch him just at the very end, but Tim Ventink will want to clear Gooday as quickly as he possibly can and try and gain some points.
So Dean's coming to the back end of the lap as DJ Phil comes out the pits. And, well, back marker's the problem around here, Dan, and that'll be the story yet again. Back marker's in the way.
Indeed, yeah, back markers, but it's obviously a circuit that's going to be a tricky circuit to clear the back markers. It's not the easiest one to pass cars and let alone, you know, like I said, pass back markers. So it's difficult for the drivers to get out of the way. It is doable, but yeah, not gone the way that especially Tim Ventink would want.
Yeah, no, not the way for him at all. So this then doesn't really change a lot for DJ Phil. It's probably going to put him outside that top 10 for the season. Probably going to keep him outside that top 5 as well, because he does miss the last race. This is going to allow Naval Gomez, who will gain some good points over him in this race. Kieran's now within a second. Tim's right on the back of John Gooday. And Robert Smith is right on the back of Brian Craig. A couple of interesting fights going on here. And the thing for Tim now is that he doesn't need that red mist to descend. He's got to keep it calm. He's got to get past as cleanly and quickly, I suppose. He's not going to gain... Oh, no, he's only 4 seconds to Justin Winter with 6 minutes, depending on the pace difference. It's possibly doable.
Yeah. Possibly doable, but we'll see. We will see, but he needs to first clear Gooday. If he doesn't clear him quickly enough, then he's not going to catch Winter. But... Tim right on the rear wing of Gooday at the minute.
Diego Flores indicating right. Kieran Argent's just got past him. And is he coming into the pit lane? He's still indicating. No. Must just have it turned on. As Tim now looking to the outside of John. John hugging it tight to the apex through the corner. And nothing else able to happen. As Kieran Argent gets ahead of Diego Flores. See if he can keep hold of that position. Robert Smith still behind Brian Craig, and John Gooday still being able to, just at the moment, keep in front of Tim Ventink. And Tim now just having a look, but nothing more than that. John Gooday obviously running a special livery for his 100th race in race one. Probably wished that his 100th race was somewhere else, because it's not been the night for John Gooday at all. And now John already on the defensive.
Probably wish he hadn't changed the livery, because usually that changes everything.
You know. Nova knows, you know. Yeah, well, Tim looking left, right, and each way till Sunday to get past John Gooday. John goes a little wide on exit. Tim's going to get a run up the inside. Now John's just behind him. Looks up the inside at 2, taps the back of Tim at 3, and on the brakes goes John to let Tim keep the position.
Yeah, so Tim gains that position. John probably more annoyed, and look at this already. Justin Winter is just over the road, because there's Paul Williams with him as well. So there's more points on for offer here for Tim Ventink, as we got Paul Williams having a mistake or an off.
Well, these two was pretty close, as Justin Winter had another moment with another car, and that, like you say, has allowed Tim Ventink with a couple of laps left to go. Robert Smith now is still getting close to the back of Brian Craig in this one. And you just feel and just fancy.
Oh, Paul Williams is just allowing them all through.
Has he got a problem?
Has he got a fuel problem?
Where's Tucker? He's 20 seconds back.
Is he trying to get to the end on barely any fuel now? Is that the question?
Tucker seems slow as well. I know he's just let Borough Bex go. I think he's just let Borough Bex go. I think I'm looking too much into that one. But yeah, Paul Williams, that was an interesting one. He's let the whole pack go. Is he tight on fuel here at the end of this race?
Possibly so, just staying out of the way, saving a bit of fuel at the same time so he doesn't have to burn it all up. But yeah, at this stage though, Tim could gain another position in Justin Winter. I think Gomez is definitely out of his reach. But Justin Winter's another chance for him to gain some more points, but he's already done the damage earlier on by dropping it once on his own.
Yeah. He has, hasn't he? Richie Michel's on the back of Dennis Hansen. This could be for a podium with Robert Smith right on the rear of Brian Craig now. They've just lapped Diego Flores. Richie Michel right there. Didn't repair the damage in the pit lane, remember. And he is right there on the back of Dennis Hansen for that opportunity of maybe a podium in this race. Brian Craig drove a great race tonight. Kieran Argent's managed to clear Diego Flores. That gap's 4 seconds. Paul Williams now 5 seconds behind John Gooday. I'm interested to keep an eye on that at the moment. If he has to pit, that could be catastrophic. So it'll hold him 25 seconds for fuel. And where's Argent on track? He's just crossed the line to go on the same lap as Paul Williams. And Paul Williams is only at the top end of the circuit, coming down towards the back part of it now. So he's just going to be 2 sectors. No, Kieran's in sector 1. He's just gone in sector 3. So yeah, he's a sector ahead of Kieran at the moment. But a pit stop could change all of that because they're in and out in the 25-second wait time.
Indeed it can, but we're just coming to the end of this race now. And your man has been on top all the way. Max Mulder has just looked faultless tonight.
Yeah, looked pretty comfortable. He's done really, really well as Max Mulder on home soil.
Robert Smith has got Craig now.
Pole and 2 wins potentially on the cards. He's looked brilliant. Oh no, he's... Oh, and what's happened to Hansen and Michel? Hansen round, Michel's hit him. Michel's waited for Hansen to go. Robert Smith's too far back. So Hansen and Michel having a bit of a door bang there. Tim Ventic now on the back of Justin Winter.
Hansen having a twitch on the exit as well. So, yeah, Tim Venting not wasting any time. He's on the back of Justin Winter, probably pumping in some qualifying laps now is Tim Venting. And, you know, he's desperate to get as many points as he possibly can. Max is... Whoa! Max having a moment. He nearly dropped it all on his own.
He's not going to want to drop it here. I know he's got a good, comfortable lead over Borobex, but he needs to take that home with him. He needs to make sure that stays there. Tim's going to try and look the long way around at Justin Winter at the next part of these S's. Turns in now. He's looking for that better exit. Just touched doors a little bit as Justin tries to push him out wide. And Tim, great run around the outside. John Gooday's off on the grass just behind. And who's going to be better on the brakes, Porsche or Ferrari? Oh, Tim's just driven into Justin Winter there. The angle may have meant that Justin turned in on Tim, but either way, Tim gets through. And Justin Winter flashing the lights, maybe thinking that Tim's barged his way past there.
Possibly so. But either way, Tim has worked his way through. Meanwhile, not too far behind this scrap is the race leader, who comes around the final corner to start his final lap here. And that would rob salt into the wounds, wouldn't it, if Max would lap his teammate?
It really would. We're watching Richie Michel at the moment. What's the gap? So Max Mulder will get 55 points. Tim Ventic will score 27 plus the fastest lap to make it 28. Richie Michel, day late, dollar short. Day late and $1 short. So Max will outscore him by a good 20-odd points in this championship battle. 226 up for grabs. That'll put him 100 and something, 110 plus ahead of Tim Ventic. So pretty much game over, and Max could really wrap the title up next week.
He could indeed, but it's Zolder. We know Zolder tends to be a dramatic round most seasons, so we'll see how Zolder goes. As long as you ain't got a Bentley behind you, you tend to be quite good off round there. But Max, though, been pretty faultless tonight. You can't really... Yeah. There's not been one moment. I think the livery probably helped him a lot running the Dutch colours. As Justin Winter has a moment again, and he's having a fight with his teammate here. He is.
His teammate's gone wide to allow Max Mulder to come through, and Max puts the lap on John and puts the lap on Justin, and now Justin's under pressure from his teammates. And they all look like they kind of messed up the chicane one way or another there. Richie Michel trying to get back onto the rear of Dennis Hansen. Tim is how far behind Gomez? Yeah, that's where Tim is going to finish in this race, because Gomez is nowhere in sight in this one at the moment.
Max final corner.
And Max then comes to the final corner. It's been a dominant day for the Dutchman on home soil. He's going to take it 2 from 2 for Max Mulder. Great drive from him in this one. Borobex, he can be happy with this second place that's coming his way, because he has been fantastic in this race. Paul Williams come across the line for P11, but it's going to be S2M Burabeks who is going to take P2. Great drive for S2M Motorsport. Dennis Hansen's lost out to Richie Michel.
Right at the end there. As no, Richie Michel's
my
gone
God,
wide.
Michel's gone wide, so that's going to hurt him. And it looks like Dennis Hansen is probably going to take this place. And Dennis Hansen is going to finish on the podium. P3 for him at the end of tonight from Richie Michel. Robert Smith then a little further back in this one. Better second race than the first. We've got Graham who's coming to the line as well. That's going to be for 13th place. He's got DJ Phil on the back of him for 17th. There they are just up front. Robert Smith, though, to the line. That is going to be P5 for him. Brian Craig will take P6. We wait for Naval Gomez as he comes to the line for P7. We've also got Kieran Argent to finish P14. Diego Flores down in 15th place. Tim Ventic, it's going to be P8 for him, and the fastest lap of this race, Mark Tucker, has finished down in P12 as well. So a good night for Max Mulder, and really you have to say stamps his authority as we just await for Dean Wysocki to cross the line. Max Mulder there really stamping his authority on this championship. And what a night it has been for the BSP lads. 1-2 in race 1, not to be in race 2, sadly, for them. But Max Mulder now 121 points clear. He can win the championship next week. BSP are 81.5. BSP to Greasy Bandits are 344.5 points clear with 426 points up for grabs. So the championship can be won next week. Both of them can be done next week by Max Mulder and by the BSP team. But your final championship standings for tonight, I'll get them figured out with the drop scores. Dan, reviews.
And we are joined with Max Mulder in the commentary box. And Max, not the best of runs last night in the GT4s, but completely faultless tonight here at Zandvoort. You said in the chat that you hated GT4s. I take it the McLaren was a lot better around here.
Yeah, the feeling with the car was a lot lighter. With the GT4 you have to fight the car into the corner, but with this car you can just go into the corner and the car goes where you want to go.
Obviously yourself and Tim running a special livery this evening, obviously running the home colours, and obviously taking 2 from 2 tonight, winning on home soil. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels amazing, and also in race 1 with my teammate 1-2 feels good, and then in race 2 we did some good laps together until the pit stop, and then we crashed together, but we forget that. But yeah, it was amazing.
Obviously going into Zolder next in the championship, you can pretty much wrap up the team's championship there. Not quite here, but you can do it at Zolder, and also you're in a very strong position to win the championship at Zolder as well. Is it going to be just making sure you win the title there, or are you still going to give it flat out as you always do each round?
Flat out.
That's what I love to hear. And nonetheless, mate, congratulations on the race win. When you do go to Zolder, what is the game plan? Like I said, just keeping it clean, just stay out of trouble, or just, you know, like I said, just try and get all those fastest laps and race wins now?
Yeah, my goal is to win both races, because Zolder was also the first race I ever did in SimPlay. So yeah, I hope I can get a double there.
Well, nonetheless, mate, congratulations on the win tonight, and we'll see you at Zolder.
Thank you.
And I believe, Max is what
just
we
about
got. So
to say, before Max leaves the party, that is Max Mulder's 25th win as well here at SimPlay Motorsport. So not only a good night, you know, one hand on the championship, one hand on the team's championship. He's taking his 25th win here at SimPlay Motorsport as well. So a good night for him. The championship standings, though, look a little like this. Max Mulder leads by 121 points from his teammate Tim Venting. who is second place in what has been a good championship between them. But Max just has had that bit more. John Gooday, P3. He's been really caught by Richie Michelle. That is 8.5 points the gap. Diz is down in P5 with Justin Winter closing the gap on him. That is 19.5 points. Brian Craig moves up to 7. Good night for him. Burrow Beck's back up to 8th. He's had a cracking night. Robert Smith stays 9th with Sam P10. Dennis Hansen moves up to 11th with Paul Williams 12th. Mark Tucker 13th. Kieran Argent stays P14. Diego Flores P15 with Naval Gomez in P16. DJ Phil drops down to 17th place, only just ahead of Bell with Senna P19. Fat Bloke P20 from Cranky Duckhead. Dean in P22. Michael P23. Mirko Ritchie 24th. Graham 25th with John Andrews 26th. 27th for Romeo. 28th for Lund. 29th for the Jackal, 30th for Dean Wisocki, Nuke Waste in 31st, Andrew Taylor 32nd, and MB Pitts. Bringing up the rear in terms of constructors, then it's BSP versus Greasy Bandits. 4 races left to go, but you feel that BSP are the driver, or the team to take the championship. They lead by 344.5 points. Team Merlo up to 3rd place though in the constructors tonight. Great night for them with a Stage 2 Motorsport P4. Richie Corsa P5, Team FBR P6, FSO Junior Racing Team P7, Rex Active Racing in P8. Then it's Forever Forward who lead the Independence Championship over Vorta Racing, Cool Shot Racing and the Greasy Bandits Junior bringing up the rear. Dan, interesting night's worth of racing, but we turn our attention now to the Pro Series. Just give us an insight. What do you think you can do tomorrow night, and what are we expecting to see out there?
First things first, I want to say a massive congratulations to the drivers this evening, especially Max, and a phenomenal drive from him. He definitely done really well in his home. So it is a bit boring normally to go for the winner for driver of the day. I'm going to give it a joint to actually Max and S2M Burbex. S2M been on fire tonight and really done well, but Max's race 1, coming through the pack and winning the race, and just being in such control, he's definitely going to be looking strong going to Zolder. Yeah, for myself, I'm not too confident going to Zandvoort. I think the boys are starting to catch me a little bit too much, and not much practice, not much testing, so all of it is going to be done after work tomorrow. But a circuit I tend not to do too great at, except in Aretia. But let's see what we can do. You know what it is. We just got to stay ahead of Clouden, and that's what we got to do. But yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's race. But it is what it is. But we look forward to the rest of the guys, though, going to Zolder next week.
Yeah, we do indeed. I'm going to go for Borough Bex for driver of the day, but honourable mention to Max Mulder. He's been fantastic. Tim for his race 1, Richie Michelle and Hanson race 2. Great night for all. But yeah, we turn our attention to Pro, who you can catch live 8 p.m. GMT +1 from myself and Phil Radin, bringing you all the action there. Dan Davis will be live back in the box at Zolder for the penultimate round of GT4s on Tuesday evening. Me and Dan will be back for the penultimate round of the Pro-Am next week, where Max Mulder can win the drivers and BSP can win the Constructors' Championship. But from all of us here at SimPlay Motorsport, make sure you hit that bell to be notified when we go live. Smash that thumbs up button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. We want to try and get to that 750 subscriber mark before the season ends. So share it with your friends, share it with families. Tell them to like and subscribe. Get it out there as we are approaching 750. Let's get that and beyond before the end of the season. But we'll see you tomorrow night. Goodbye.
Goodbye.